Chicken to China, the Chinese chicken.
You have a drumstick and your brain starts ticking. Watching X-Files, no lights on.
Hope the smoking man exists.
Harrison Ford, I'm getting chick. I think I'm tantric. Like Snickers guaranteed to satisfy. I don't make mad films. I don't make films. But if I did that as a samurai, gonna make a take a break, a fake a shake it.
My goodness, it's the finest of the flavors. When
Oh,
I shake something,
man.
nothing particular was gonna go because it's so dangerous. You have to sign on the waiver.
All right.
Can't help but think you're funny when you're mad.
This is the Bare Naked Ladies show.
Oh shit, is it on?
Yeah,
We thought we were just singing. I didn't
no,
know it was on.
we're on. You are watching Session Stream Live from Shakers Bar Downtown Cape, episode 21. And Cody, you've made every one of them. That's like 5 months, guys. I did the math in the shower.
1, 2.
No, not like that. Soap gets in there, burns. But no, we've done 21 of them, man. This is we're on our 21st, so that's good, man. We're consistency, and in the bar business, that's something special. We're missing Lank tonight. Lank's not feeling well. I think there's some stuff going around, and
Yeah, it's called look like a bitch syndrome.
Got him.
I wish Lank would watch. I don't know if Lank's watching or not.
I don't know.
We need to get him. He should be watching, though, if he's not going to be on the show at least, right? He could still take part, right?
Well, most definitely. We're an interactive show.
You have a terminal disease, and you're really tired right now,
Yep.
and really would probably rather be in bed, but look where you are.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
You know why
I
I'm
was
here?
sick like last week or the week before.
I'm here because of consistency.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you got to have something consistent in your life every once in a while, you know?
it's true.
Something. No, I mean, I found that's the key to a lot of things. Success, family, friendship, love is consistency. It's just showing up and doing it every day.
Yeah.
It's when you feel least like doing it is when you do it. Do it. So, and that's the one thing about it is, and like this is an example of the bar business. If we didn't come here, people wouldn't miss us. You know, people just go on and find their own thing to do, and nobody would care. But if we give them something to see every Thursday, and they know they can count on us for maybe some side, entertainment, just something fun, we'll be good. We are going to be joined by Danny Stewart here in just a minute. Danny's going to be new to the show, but he's a friend of the bar and works with Cody at his other place of employment. So he'll be sitting right here, and we'll get him here in just a minute. But we're glad to be back. Last week's show was kind of funny because we were sitting at the bar, and Jay was having lots of fun trying to figure out. Yeah, he's doing pretty good. He ended up going behind the bar and finding a place to put the tripod, and was actually we did a pretty good job for his. I watched the show back, and it was pretty good. It was just a big BS show, is all it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't much to it, but it was funny.
There was a lot of tits on the show.
There was, yeah. If you didn't watch last week's show, you missed boobies and testicles.
That's your loss.
People are like, what?
That's your loss.
Seriously? But no, you didn't miss anything. We were just having a fun Thanksgiving show, so we skipped Halloween for some reason, and we decided to come back and do Thanksgiving. So episode 21, and of course, Zach Mazade's here, Cody Essick, and Danny Stewart will be here in just a minute. As I said, Matt Lawler's out sick. His labia hurts.
Specifically his labia.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the P word.
Is it the menorah or majora that hurts worse?
The majora.
The majora.
Look it up. That is what is that? Anatomy. It's your anatomy lesson for the night.
Google this.
Labia majora.
No, you need to Google clitoris. Find where that shit is.
Oh, I know where that is.
It's right over there.
It's
talking to them, man, not you.
Isn't this the clitoris?
That's it.
Oh, I thought this was the clitoris.
That's it. Yeah.
And I say clitoris. You say clitoris?
Yes.
Tomato, potato, potato. Okay, so we always know what holiday is because Bailey, her ringtones are, first it was gobble gobble turkey for Thanksgiving, now it's sleigh bells. Ching, ching,
Thanks to
ching.
her, I have Christmas Vacation stuck in my head. Like literally, it's just
I
playing
know.
over and over again in my head.
Christmas vacation.
Motherfucking Christmas.
I don't know this song, and he keeps singing
You've
it.
never seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
Christmas vacation with Chevy Chase?
No, I've seen the movie.
It's the song that plays at the
I didn't
beginning.
realize there was a song that played.
Go back and watch it again, dude. It's one of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah, it's
Eric's
like,
gonna do an instrumental the whole thing real quick.
Anyway, speaking of that, it is that time of the year for you to start breaking out the old holiday films, and of course, you know, TV, they start on the DVR, you start seeing them pop up, and the kids watch them, and Rudolph, and I watched It's a Wonderful Life the other day, so try to do a family thing to where something I could watch, because my kids like to watch stuff on Disney, and I don't always like to watch the I don't like the shows, like that live action shows, like Raven and all those other ones. Like, I think it's campy, silly humor.
It is.
What is Raven?
It's
So
Raven
Raven.
Simone. That's So Raven.
Oh, that's
She,
okay.
you remember her from what show was she on as a kid?
Cosby Show.
Cosby Show. She was a little one on
Oh,
Cosby
okay.
Show. But anyway, she's continued her acting career. Now she's on, I don't know if it's Disney or what channel it's on, but it's basically her as an adult with kids, and she and another person live in an apartment and they're raising kids. But anyway, it's hijinks and laughter the whole time. But I think that humor is always really campy and silly and cheesy, but my girls like it, and it's relatively clean.
That
so
Disney humor.
yeah, it is that Disney humor that goes on. It's that what is that?
You know,
High School Musical humor.
Disney's greatest comedy movie was actually Song of the South.
Oh,
A lot of people don't know that.
Dude. Stop making me laugh at stuff that I shouldn't laugh at. It's not Song of the South, no.
God damn it, Zach.
Zach, you're making Cody laugh at stuff that he's very uncomfortable laughing at.
I'm laughing at him, not with him.
Yeah, we are laughing at you this time. You don't care, though. He's one of the few people like, go ahead, laugh at me. I don't care. Speaking of guests, we'd love to have some of the other gender, the female
The
gender.
ones with
since
the
we're-
lady.
Yeah, with the labia majora. We'd love to have a few of you on the show, especially if you have an expertise in something. I don't know if we scare people off or they just don't want to bother themselves with coming on here, but we'd love to have some females on.
I'm not trying to name drop here, but like, if Carrie would just show up, we'd have a female on the show.
That'd be awesome. I'd love it, man, because she's been following the show and she knows the format, and so you can get a drink, man, and come over. So, but yeah, we'd love to have some ladies on the show. We'd love your opinion and your feedback on stuff, and especially if you have knowledge about some subject that we've covered or we want to cover, it'd be good to have you. So I see Danny just walk in. He's going to get himself a drink. So we'll start on the local sports scene. SEMO lost their playoff opener to Illinois State. They basically got trounced. So that was not a successful playoff show for SEMO this year. Last year they won their first game, went to the second game and got trounced. But it's building. It's building on a process, and let's call it brick by brick. Jackson High School is playing this next Saturday in the state championship, actually, in 5A. They're playing Carthage High School. That'll be in Columbia. So if you're a 5A football fan of the area, you should be. If you're from the area, you should be interested in what's going on with Jackson or Cape or any Sykeston, any local school. You should be interested. So Jackson High School is playing for the state championship on Saturday. And hello, Danny.
Hey.
Welcome. There's Danny Stewart, everyone. Hopefully Danny shared that he was going to be on the show with somebody. Rachel. And that's how we kind of grow our audience. When we have a new guest on, they share it, and you put it up as high as you can. That way people can hear your beautiful voice. we actually invited Danny on because Danny comes into the bar and works with Cody, and Danny's got one of those really great senses of humor that catches people off guard with a sharp wit.
It's mostly dick and fart jokes.
It is, but that's okay. We love
exactly
that
what
here.
we like.
We love that.
That's what we're
Come
about.
on, come
You've
on
got
up
your
here, Bailey. Get on in
1972
here.
Olympic sweatshirt on.
Thank you, sir.
I know. That's from Matilda.
I think he'll want it.
The trench ball.
I guess I should ask, are there any language
I'm smart.
restrictions I
You're
have to-
dumb.
Yeah, we
I'm
can't-
big.
we can't
You're
cuss on
little.
this fucking show.
We don't say fuck.
Good.
Yeah, this is an uncensored show. Zach makes sure that it stays that way.
You're damn right.
So we just kind of did some intro and started off. Nothing big yet. Invited some ladies on the show. We'd like to have some ladies on. I mentioned Jackson High School football, and now we're going to get right into some fun subjects to start things out. And of course, you're watching Session Stream Live from Shakers Bar downtown Cape. We're the only thing in the area like this. I checked and looked all over the place, and we're the only Facebook Live podcast / amateur.
I thought you were thinking
There's
like
not
four
another
drunk
one. We
dudes.
checked.
We checked, and there better not be. It's funny though, if you watch, there'll be somebody that'll do it eventually. Like you're like, oh, we're doing this show. It's look at us, and I hate that because I try to be original and do stuff nobody else does, and then like I want to say something when people do stuff that I do.
Imitation is the finest form of
I know, but
flattery.
if people don't know they're imitating, that's what bothers me. Like that's the key for me is when somebody, like when I come up with a promotion or some kind of event I
Sure.
want to do here, and then another bar does almost the exact same thing, I want to call it out so bad.
All
But
I'm saying is,
professional bar side of things,
and that's
I can't
fine.
do it because it's
I'm not professional. I don't own a bar. So the only thing I can say on that is, if someone starts biting off us a little too much, I'm gonna use their face like a drum set. My nuts are going on it.
I just want everybody to be original. This is all I've ever said about
You gotta come original.
when
You
you're
gotta
a
come
restaurant or a
original.
bar, do your own stuff. Like there's no place like Mary Jane's. It's the only place like it in town. It's original. They do their own thing.
It's phenomenal.
They have their own thing, and I like it. The library does its own stuff. It's not trying to be like anybody else.
Like,
we do
on
our
real
own
talk,
stuff.
have you experienced the Brontosaurus rib?
I have not gone.
Leave
there
now.
yet.
Go check it out real quick. Come back and
We'll wait.
Yeah.
Like, sorry guys.
It doesn't take much to do this show.
Just
You guys
15
don't
minutes
need
of
me.
awkward silence while we wait for Eric to get back to the
cargo
I think
room.
it would take longer than 15
Right.
minutes.
That's a good idea.
Actually, I could do a cargo and get it here probably in about 20. All right. So, but originality, if you're going to be original, and because I always, before I do an event, I actually check other people's event calendars because I don't want to do, like, especially in the same month, I don't want to do an event that somebody else is doing because to me, it's a bad look. And if I have one person say to me, hey, didn't so-and-so do this? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess they did. So not that you're not going to do some of the same stuff everybody's doing, but try to be original no matter what you're doing.
I think all the bars are copying anyway. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, we have alcohol too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Posers.
Alcohol and music.
AIDS.
AIDS. Have we gotten there yet? I thought it was just like the minors, like the herpes and the
Oh, is that all?
chlamydias.
Oh, I thought we were there.
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay.
I think we're still in that early zone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
we're in the 80s. No, not the 80s, because the 80s was AIDS. We're in the 70s right
Before we knew what AIDS
now. Yeah, we're
was.
in the 60s and 70s.
Before people started fucking monkeys, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You took that right out of me, man. The monkey, that is.
You guys ever know anybody that's had herpes? Have you? Have you?
Like 1 in 5 people. So.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Do you know Missouri is chlamydia and
there's
herpes
5 people here.
the second ranked in the country, I read?
I mean, have you been to Sykeston?
Wow, you just called out Sykeston.
I'd at least throw like
So are
Chaffee
you
under the
claiming that
bus.
Sykeston is covered in chlamydia?
It's not a flower.
It's all
not
right.
a
On the way
flower.
there, you can just feel your way through the herpes to
Oh,
through
my
Chaffee
God.
to get down there.
I do know that Missouri ranks very high on the charts on STDs. I guess they track that because we know, I don't know, colleges and high schools.
It's in the name.
whatever.
Yeah, misery.
Missouri.
Mm.
Chlamydia is not in there. I looked.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not in
And
the
he knows what to
spelling.
look for.
Important that
Right.
you check.
I do. Oozy pus and green stuff.
All right, so next topic. What we got here?
Hey, you just labeled Sykeston as the chlamydia capital of Missouri.
You hang out there a lot?
Hey, you
Bob?
gotta be
Prove me
number one
wrong.
on something, right?
What?
They were
went to
number
state
like what, 2
basketball.
in crime for the past 3 years.
Well,
so.
if you're not first,
rookie
you're
numbers.
last.
Right.
So
You gotta pump those numbers up.
gotta pump that
Sykeston.
shit up.
Yeah. You guys have
Bobby, I was
fallen off
high when I
lately.
said that.
East St. Louis can't keep beating you.
My mother's words.
You got East St. Louis still beating you in something. You got to quit. All right. So speaking of controversial subjects, so a San Francisco 49ers broadcaster has been suspended because of his comments about Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. He said, you can't see the ball when he fakes the handoff because of his dark skin. Now, I will say, hold on, this is his words, and they did a quote, and he's since apologized for what he said. He did not mean it to come out that way. I admit that it's a terrible way that he said something, but I don't think he meant it that way.
Okay, let's not call something racist just because you pointed out a fact.
Right.
Like, his skin tone is dark, the ball is a similar
And
skin
that's
tone.
what he was saying.
He pointed out a fact. That's not something that's like, we get so up in arms about this shit, and it's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, there's things that like, there's real, actual, like, terrible racist shit out in the world. Like, it happens. But this isn't one of them. Like,
No,
that's not the case here.
Look,
hey, you have dark skin tone, guy. Oh, that's racist. No, it's not. You like, if you told me that I was really tan, it's not like don't skin
You're
shame
so
me.
European.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna be really tan. I'm pasty white, but I'm just saying, like,
I get it.
This social justice warrior mentality that just causes so many problems, and it's like, there's hills to die on, but this isn't the one.
No,
you know?
that's a good point. I mean, if you really want to combat racism, and this is what I've said before, if you really want to beat racism, if you want to combat it and actually fix it, like you said, there's real, actual, terrible racism out there.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a guy that compared the dark skin color and saying that it's hard to see the ball on a fake handoff. If you're speaking from a football perspective, he's not being racist. Yeah. But could he have chosen a different way of saying it? Say it's hard to see
I don't
the
know
ball.
how else you would phrase that.
It's not
the
easy to
same
see out of those
implication, no matter
helmets.
how you
either.
say it.
So strange time to ask.
I mean, I could. The only thing I could see is there have been plenty of black quarterbacks. Why all of a sudden is this one the one he's talking about? That being, it's not because he's dark. It's because he's fucking good. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's the thing.
Here's the real question: was it a white man who said it?
Yes.
Fuck it, he's racist.
Well, and I think that's what Danny's saying, and I think I'm saying, look, do people say racist things? Yes. Do we need to stop it? Do we need to not have racism and we need to combat it? Yes. I'll stand up. You show me a fight, and I'll stand with you. Ben Shapiro said that. You show me racism, and I'll fight it with you.
Yep.
But don't start screaming about something that's not really racist and expect me to go, oh, no. Could he have, like you said, were there other words he could have used? No, not really.
There were other words that he could use that would be racist.
Yeah.
There are things he could have said that would have been.
He could have made it a lot
hand over
worse than what it
fist.
was.
Very
The
racist.
opaqueness of your flesh and the ball make it hard to see.
Okay, first off, sports analytics. They talk about the same damn thing all year long.
Yeah.
The same phrases, the same turn of phrase. They're all, it's like every single time you see a basketball interview and it's like, hey, how do you feel you could have done different on the team? It's like, oh man, if we could have scored more points and, really got our defense up. It's like, yeah, if you could have played the game better, you'd have done better. No shit. And that's what they talk about all year long. Every team, every interview, everybody that talks about it.
I think we got to take a knee. I think we have to take a knee for this.
Do you ever see the Key and Peele episode where he's interviewing him and he says, you had a great game. What do you 100% team effort. We all went in together, and he keeps repeating himself. And the commentator says, damn it, stop saying it.
It's every sports
what
interview.
stood out to you? Yeah, we worked together as a team. We just did this and that. Well, because in college, you're actually, when you do interviews in college, you're told how to speak. And I think they carry that with them. And the problem is you have stuff like this that makes people overly sensitive, and they don't want to say stuff. But the bottom line is Lamar Jackson is an amazing quarterback.
Phenomenal.
Doesn't matter what color his skin is. But the bottom line is, if something with, like for example, if I have a big gut. If my big gut hid that football, and somebody said, well, his gut's so big it hides the football. Now, the fat shaming people be like, oh no, you can't talk about his big
Do
fat
not
gut.
fat shame him. You own that, Lizzo.
Yeah.
You own that.
Yeah, I'm saying, and that's the point is, everything in sports has become so bland and mundane because everybody's afraid to piss somebody off. I want to go back to the time sports were entertainment. Back in the 70s and 80s when people said crazy stuff like, I'm not a role model and stop following me and you're stupid. And
I think ultimately the issue here is not the white man saying it. I think the issue is
it's the way you said it. Not the white man saying it. How a white man?
I think the issue is because he is white, it is an issue.
Now, that's a good point. Kobe. I've known you for freaking 2 years. Cody, if it had been an African American, a black commentator, and said the same thing, would anybody have said a thing? Would anybody say boo?
Probably not.
You don't think?
I think it could have been a Hispanic individual and no one would have said anything.
I don't
Okay,
know.
first off-
Hispanics and blacks don't get along very well.
First off, as white men, we
Yeah,
probably not the best
It's
demographic
men,
to
right.
comment on this.
we're probably not, but
We're probably not, but also we've earned the right to have to be more careful with what we say,
Right.
just based on our own
Yeah,
history.
right,
Like,
yeah.
that's not the issue.
Well, is it
Like,
your history? Because it's not my
it's
history.
not my history either.
My
I
history is
get what
Scottish.
you're-
We were fucking slaves.
I know, I get what he's saying, but at the same
I'm
time,
Scotch-Irish,
there's
and
You're same.
Yeah,
and
you're-
Native American.
You grew up in your ancestry.
Yeah.
The worst. They had the Irish, one of the most, besides the Jews, one of the most oppressed peoples in the entire
So
world.
classism, racism, everybody's been affected by it in some way. But also in the last, I'm 37 years old, and the 37 years I've been alive, I've not been personally impacted by the racism that my ancestors felt. Like nobody's coming to my house with smallpox blankets to kill my whole family off. You know, like nobody's coming and telling me I can't have a job because I'm Irish. You know, that's not going on. But in my lifetime, even prior to the Rodney King beatings, that was so common in the United States for black people. So it's really easy to say, like, you know, you've suffered too, so you have a right to say things. But at the same time, it's like not recently. I haven't suffered recently.
Right.
You know.
Well, I have a hard time listening to anybody that has. First of all, I'm white, so according to some, I have privilege. I know. Settle in. I don't know what my privilege is. I've asked for identifiers, and then you know what the reasoning is well, by the fact that you don't understand your privilege means you have it. I'm like, what kind of nonsense is that? Look, do I believe that there are times when you have dark skin that you are oppressed and things happen to you in this country? Yes, I still think that happens.
Yeah.
But do I think it's rampant, and do I think it's still widespread? Not as much.
It's really hard from our perspective to know.
You can only go by what you see.
So a very recent conversation I had with some friends of mine who are of color. They were talking about one of them getting pulled over at a local gas station, and as soon as he got pulled over, they called for backup, and they had 3 cop cars there because his taillight was out, or his license plate light was out.
But was that it? See, that's the thing.
That's it. They called 3 squad cars because his license plate light.
I'm
was
a little
out.
jealous. I only get 2.
And I was regaling him with tales of myself also having to deal with the law and how it has affected me. Like, I got pulled over doing 20 miles an hour over the speed limit one time on the interstate, and the cop invited me to sit in his car, and we hung out for like an hour, and then he gave me a warning and let me go. And that's very similar circumstances. It really is.
But see, I think the truth of the matter is I've been pulled over and I've had an extra patrolman come, which is some department's policy. Now, I don't know about that. You say the 3 showed up. Was that here in Cape?
Yeah.
That may be a Cape thing. In certain parts of the town that you have 3 show up. I'm just saying, does it make it right? No. If they had more come because this was a black gentleman driving a car, no, it's not right. It shouldn't happen. But I do know there's 2 sides to everything. First one is there's the side of the person driving the car, a black man's view on how they're viewed by law enforcement and in general in society. Mm-hmm. Then there's the police officer side of things where they have showed up and they've had incidents where they've needed backup and haven't had it. So now they get extra backup to make sure. Because a lot of times things escalate really quick when it's just one-on-one.
That's a great argument, except that our judicial system is innocent until proven guilty. And if you I mean,
I think
you can't call for backup as soon as you pull somebody over. Regardless.
Well, I agree that you're innocent until proven guilty. But when part of the thing is, and I used to be a cop, I pulled over people. I didn't care. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know if they were black, white. I didn't know anything because you don't see that. They're speeding. Their license plates messed up. They got a tail light out. Whatever. When you come up to the car, if everything goes smoothly and you talk to them and everything's good, I never had a problem. I mean, I stopped a car full of guys driving to Sykeston, black guys driving to Sykeston, and they immediately were upset because I pulled them over and I said, "You ran a stop sign, bud. It was right there." Mm-hmm. I didn't give them a ticket. I sent them on their way.
That's a perfect example of the right way to do things.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is there was no reason for me to call anybody else. They didn't escalate. I didn't escalate. We communicated with each other, and I think a lot of it comes down to people understanding. I think cops are starting to understand more about how people feel when they get pulled over. Hopefully, they're supposed to be trained on that stuff.
Yeah,
and I think they're trying, and I think when you're talking about personal safety, you worry about that. Now, this guy, I don't know what happened based on what he told you. It was just a taillight. Mm-hmm. That doesn't warrant 3 cops, but we don't know what the department policy is. We don't know anything that's going on. If you're just looking at it from that perspective, it looks bad. I agree.
Yeah, and it's also a thing with the area we live in. It's been within my mom's lifetime, which she's 67, that the last black man was hung in Sykeston for dating a white woman. Like, that's not even a decade or not even a century ago that happened locally.
Well, there used to be a law.
So that mentality is dying off, but it's slow. And to think that that's not still roaming around here, that's very naive. Because obviously it's not. There's parts of Cape you don't want to go into after the sun sets. Predominantly, it's the neighborhoods that are mostly of color, but that doesn't mean that every single person
Right.
like that needs to be.
If people in those neighborhoods actually deserve that reputation, because some of them don't, like you said. I know for a fact, I was a cop in Perryville, and I'm just going to call it out. I believe it was until 1983, there was a law on the books that you could not be an African American be on the town square after dark.
Yeah. That's in my lifetime.
That was. I didn't actually look it up. I was just told that by someone, so I don't know if it's actually real. I know I was told that as a police officer that was one of the laws that used to be on the books there, and it came into play because I showed up at the scene of a domestic argument. There's a Caucasian white girl on a porch, and a black gentleman was trying to leave, just go. And I showed up, and he immediately bristles and gets upset. And I said, look, I'm not here. I just want to know what's going on. So everything was cool. He was calm. The girl on the porch was like, I don't want him arrested. Everything's fine. So we had a nice conversation. I found out that he was just trying to get some air and get away from her. No physicality happened. Nothing happened. So I was going to go ahead and leave. A certain other officer from another department showed up as backup. I didn't call him, but as backup, gets out and immediately starts pressing the guy. What are you doing? And I'm like, no, this is good. There's nothing going on. So yes, it happens, and it still happens. Now this was back in the late 90s, but at the same time, you're right, it is happening. And if you're a black person and you get pulled over for a taillight, and then you look behind you and you see 3 cops, you're immediately thinking, really?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to go home from work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a point, and that's where
And
people
it's
have to talk and have to understand points of view on, community policing has to do with the fact that if you're going to be involved in your community as a police officer, you've got to listen and you've got to hear what people have to say. And then if you're on the other side of things, you got to help and be part of the community. You can't be adversarial and antisocial at all times, because sometimes the police need you to get involved and help.
Sometimes they forget their number one job is to serve and protect, not to persecute.
That's the thing. And I think, and that's what I'm saying. I've been on both sides of it. I've been in somewhere where something bad happened, and I've been on the other side, on the law enforcement side, and it's a bad situation either way. I think, like you said, we're making progress, we're getting better, but we still have a long way to go on it. I agree, and you're right. We're not really the people to talk about it, but at the same time, the last guy I had on that I tried, he, bless his heart. I mean, God bless him. Rest in peace, man. I had Dre on, and we didn't really get into too much race with Dre. But for those of you that don't know, Andre Dennis was a friend of the downtown, and he circulated through the bars. Everybody knew him, and there were a lot of people that thought very highly of him. And he always had a smile for people, and he was always a friendly guy. And we never really talked about it on the show, but he passed away recently from a tragic car accident. So we never really did give a kind of a shout out to him. But yeah, we didn't really acknowledge it too much. And I wanted to give people time to kind of get past it a little bit, the funeral done and everything. So rest in peace, Andre. We loved you, and hope you're in a much better place, man. You are watching Segment Live from Shakers. We have a new guest tonight. It's Danny Stewart, and already having good input for us. Now, speaking of that, we're going to get away from the police racism thing, but I do want to talk about one thing. Have you guys heard about these First Amendment audits?
No.
Okay, so on YouTube, there's a huge community of guys that do First Amendment audits. And what they do is they basically put a gun on their hip and get a camera and go into a post office, or they go into a police station. I didn't know that's what it was, but yeah, I've seen it. They're called First Amendment audits. And what they're basically doing is freedom of the press. And they will antagonize city officials or whoever and get them to react to something they're doing. And it's for videos, and it's for effect. It's also to try to show how some law enforcement and some people in positions of authority act when they're challenged. I will say this: I don't advise anyone to antagonize the police. It's not very smart. It doesn't matter if you think you're right or you're not right. If you know the law and you're following the law, then quit worrying about it. Don't shove it in their face. Cops are just trying to do their job most of the time, and so these guys are doing First Amendment audits. I say to you, everybody has a right to say what they want to say, freedom of speech, freedom of press. But there's also, you got to use your common sense.
The goal is not to see how far away you can get with that.
No, because we're given those rights, but just like you said, you're allowed to say whatever you want in this country, but not without consequences.
Absolutely.
You can say whatever you want. It's not against the law to say something completely wrong and guttural. but you still have fallout from it. It's just the way things work.
That's one of the most important things I try to teach my children. It's like you are your own law, like to yourself. Every human being is. But if you're going to do something that you know is going to cause you to get in trouble or to break some kind of situation, you have to be willing to pay for that. Like you have to be willing to deal with the consequences of your actions. And you can't live a life where you just think that there should never be any consequence to the things that you do.
That's true. Zach, as someone that's very outspoken, you pretty much say whatever you're thinking and what you feel. You also have been around for a while and seen a lot of things. You don't like anybody to tell you that you can't say something.
Of course not.
But you also...
I got brain one to know that no matter what I say is come back and bite me in the ass.
Right. You're willing to deal with that on that level. So that's all I got to say is if you're going to antagonize police or if you're going to push the limits of the law, be prepared for what falls out from it. Because just because you're allowed to video someone in a certain situation doesn't mean that person's not going to get mad and slap the camera out of your hand. Doesn't make it right, but it still can happen. Be prepared.
Yep.
All right. Zach, I'm going to have you cover something for us. We talked about this a day or two ago. Something that Amazon, now listen, I don't like big companies. Jeff Bezos, the richest guy in the world, and can have me killed like that. But I'm just going to say right now, I don't like huge conglomerates. I don't think anybody does. They suck up all the money and they make the rules for everybody. But in this case, I really don't like Amazon, what they're doing. So Zach's going to talk about it because he actually did some reading on it, and I was amazed. So Zach, if you want to talk about this for a minute.
Yeah, so New York is now allowing SNAP benefits, so that's food stamps. That's, EBT is what we call them here, to be spent on Amazon for groceries delivered to your house. Here's my thing.
Danny's like,
if you need assistance, you don't need these. You don't need the internet. Like, you need to focus on what's important. And I think, just call it a hunch, having groceries delivered, and I mean, New York, that's a big place, and it's a lot of the stores are much like Cape. I mean, it's just a hop, skip, walk 2 or 3 blocks, you're in a store. No, absolutely not. Why does first off, it's delivered to you, so that's governmental. So the government's paying the government to give you groceries, but it's not really the government, it's we're paying the government to give you groceries. And I don't mean we're here in Missouri, obviously that doesn't affect it, but I mean these people who work hard are now supporting delivery, and the way that they're advertising it is you will spend 59 hours in a grocery store. Imagine what you could do with 59 hours with your family.
So let me ask you this as devil's advocate, because we talked about this. What about the people that say that there's some people that can't get to a store, they don't have a car?
What if the reason you're on food stamps is because you're disabled? You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say that, but Zach has an answer for that. The disabled thing, he's got an answer for because I'm sure he's going to say there's exceptions to everything.
Absolutely not. Get a fucking job. No. All right, so there's other alternatives, though. I mean, look right here in Cape. Walmart will deliver your groceries. Schnucks will deliver your groceries.
Yeah.
All right, I understand Schnucks is a regional company, but you cannot tell me that there's not a Piggly Wiggly somewhere that's not teamed up with some organization to deliver the groceries. I don't think it needs to be a male situation.
Well, I just
love to know what the difference is. What difference does it make? Whether it's Schnucks delivering it or Amazon delivering it, what difference does it make?
So Schnucks teams up with actually a small company, and these people are paid to go in there, get your groceries, deliver them to you.
Local money stays local is what
Yeah, I get you.
Why take money out of another person's pocket? Now, albeit, if a person is bedridden, all right, my old man's bedridden. He ain't been in a grocery store in many a moon. He went to a doctor today, got out of the car, busted his ass. Took a team of firemen actually to get him up, but yeah, there's an exception on the people who can't physically walk. But that exception I do not think is under that grounds. I would see it more as
Thanks, Lindsay.
Use those stores. Use the store's resources that are available.
So your big thing on the delivery part is more about Amazon being this huge conglomerate sucking up everybody's business, as opposed to the fact that it's EBT SNAP.
When it comes down to the let's call it the disabled who physically can't.
Right.
Sure.
So, Danny, I'm going to go to Cody after that, but Danny, your opinion on it. First of all, the fact that Amazon is now going to accept EBT SNAP, your feelings on that, your opinion, and then the delivery situation. What do you think?
So my opinion on the EBT SNAP is that is a thing that you apply for, you qualify for it. It's a government program. It's been in place for a very long time, and the whole reason it was established was to help people. Food stamps have been so bedeviled, which is, it's become a common thing to like trash on people for having them or for needing the assistance. But in my opinion, most people don't want to be on food stamps. That's not something that you aspire to be. Nobody's trying to live the life where they have to be assisted.
There's
all
a
the
difference
time.
between somebody that's on food stamps because they need it and on food stamps because they don't
I
feel
have
like doing
100%
something.
met
And
people in
the
my
amount
life.
of people that are doing it just to take advantage of the system is a lot less than people that actually.
I have met people in my life who are gaming the system, and that happens. But it's also one of the most successful government programs that has ever been put in place. 98% of people who use food stamps are off of it within a year. That's a real statistic.
So
can
you
look it
have
up.
that up?
Yeah,
that stat?
So it's something
So
that's
within a
been
year,
bedeviled
so
as
people are usually not on it more than a year is what you're saying?
Usually about a year is what people
Okay.
require the help for.
I'd have to look that up. That's interesting. I didn't
Absolutely,
know that.
because it's one of the most bedeviled programs that we have, as a society, put together to help people, the less fortunate, or people that need help, or to help your fellow man. That being said, I can't think of another instance, unless you're talking about like government employee pay, where our taxes are going right back into our economy.
You mean because that's government subsidy, basically giving money to people
So
to
it's
shop and it
tax
goes
money.
right back in?
It's our tax money that is being given back to people who are then pumping it into our infrastructure. It's helping our bottom line. Now, there are so many instances in our country, specifically our country. You talk about Jeff Bezos, you talk about Bill Gates, you talk about the percentage of billionaires in the country who have amassed this giant amount of wealth and they're just holding it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're holding on to all of this money, and they're not pumping any of it back into our infrastructure, which means that the rest of us are struggling for what remains after you have people with multi-billion-dollar
But Danny,
amounts of
don't you
money.
think, and you know how I feel about conglomerates, I just said.
Yeah.
But don't you think that there is another side of that where he's employing hundreds of thousands of people and building buildings and giving people jobs? And now, I'm not saying he's an angel for it. I'm saying there's two sides to it, meaning, yes, he's hoarding a lot of money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he those areas around his companies, his factories, I don't know if you guys ever seen where Amazons are at, but I've been to an Amazon park. That whole 4 or 5 mile radius is pristine. Mm-hmm. Waters, the ponds, the roads, it's just pristine, and people get great work environment, great. So I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying, as much as you're saying that, and I do agree with you that I think these billionaires that have all this money that they're holding on to, first of all, there's a lot they could do with it. Secondly, I don't like people that take over, and this is why I don't want Amazon doing a lot of delivery, because I like trying to keep things local. I want people, as being a local business owner, I want people local to be able to, get the money, cargo, and it's a local guys that started it. So, but there's two sides to it, and that's the thing. Is I always look at it's always easy for me, and I agree with you, where the food stamp program was initiated and started, back in the 20s and 30s, mm-hmm. for people coming back from war, and and moms and that were there taking care of families, and then people getting out of the military and needing an upkeep. And back then, people stayed out longer than a year. That's an interesting fact. I have to look that up. About a year, 98%. That's a good. That's good.
Do you know where the
That's-
majority of
feel a lot
welfare
better
money
about it.
goes?
Yeah. The what now?
Do you know where the majority of welfare money goes?
No.
It's farmers. It goes to farmers to subsidize their
Subsidies.
land. Yeah, that's where the majority of that money goes. It's where they sell their land to the government and promise not to plant food on it for X amount of time, so that they're giving other people a chance to grow and make money off of their land. And that's where the majority of welfare money goes. So it's so easy to trash on people who need help, but the people who need the help the most
Mm-hmm.
are people who are feeding us. as opposed to people who can't afford to go out and buy their own groceries or that are sourcing Amazon as a way to get their food to their house.
That's a good point. That's good.
Another really interesting question is what's the value of a dollar? How much is a dollar bill worth?
Not a dollar. It's
It's
like 78 cents.
the value of a dollar is only worth a dollar because Americans believe it's worth a dollar. We don't have anything to back our money up.
It is worth nothing. A
Well,
dollar bill is paper.
Gold still backs it up, but
not enough to
bottom
for how
line
much
is
money
our,
we have.
our dollar's
over-
worth about 78 cents right now.
Right,
what the
based
dollar
on the
value
idea
is.
that in Fort Knox they're holding enough gold to pay for all of the
Supposedly.
promises that
but most of
dollar
the gold in
bill
Fort Knox
gives.
is held by other countries.
Right.
More than half.
China owns our country.
Right.
China owns our debt. They bought it all out.
But see, in turn,
we sold them motherfuckers rice.
Yeah.
but here's the thing. That goes into a whole new thing, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up as far as the food stamps and as far as the Amazon, because my thing is that's an interesting point about the year, and 98% get off in a year. And if what you're saying is fact, then the program's working the way it's supposed to
one of the most
work.
successful governmental programs ever put in place.
I'm glad to hear that. I honestly am not informed enough to be able to argue with you on that, so I'm going to agree with you. And if that's it, then that's awesome. That means that the program is working exactly the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to help people get through a hard time and then get them back on their feet where they can self-sustain. So speaking of that, then my problem with Amazon is just the fact that I want local people to deliver. I think it keeps business local. I shop on Amazon. I've used Amazon before. I do try to shop local, but I'll be honest with you, and I've spoken on the show about this. This Best Buy here in Cape, terrible service. So I go to Amazon and buy stuff because the service at Best Buy
Their
is
service and their prices can't
horrendous.
compete.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So when you go on Amazon and you see a Amazon price is $30 less than at Best Buy, it's not even a sale, and then they have sales on it. I mean, they're going to mass produce it and be able to sell it cheaper. So
Well, it's a whole other thing with talking about keeping local money local. If you're a FedEx driver, you're in business for yourself.
pretty much,
They employ themselves, and
Pretty
so
much,
you're talking about if you're buying things from Amazon and having delivered locally, then you're paying for a person with a FedEx business to stay in business.
So the
functionally. Now,
FedEx drivers actually are independent contractors.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, two of my friends were FedEx drivers, and they had to buy into the company, and then they were in.
Have you grabbed me a
support
water,
of
Cody?
themselves. And I think UPS is different.
Yeah,
I think
UPS is
UPS,
not.
you work for UPS, but
So
with
FedEx,
you're
if you
a-
get hired
you're
at FedEx,
independent.
you're an independent
Yeah,
contractor.
You're an independent.
So the more you
contractor.
deliver, the more you make, and
Exactly.
kind of
It's
it's
all about
based
the
on your
hustle.
hustle.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Explains
there's-
why they just throw the fucking pack.
Yeah. That's,
or
you always
put
see
your,
you always
put
see
your doormat over
Yeah.
the top of your giant box to hide it. Yeah.
yeah. So speak of that, deliveries. I'm glad you brought that up. I watch a lot of YouTube and Facebook and Vines and stuff like that. And these porch pirates. I don't know if everybody knows what porch pirates are, but
Yep.
this is the time of year when porch pirates are out looking around. And basically, if you guys don't know what it is and you've never been a victim, and it sucks because you have something to deliver, and of course UPS and FedEx only have to get the stuff to your porch. They don't have to actually put it in your hand. So they'll drop it on your porch, and they may leave a label said whatever, but basically that's there, and then people drive up and take your stuff. But I saw a guy that not only have I've seen people get caught, but there was one real funny one that he actually made a song up, and he scooped his cat poop and pee and put it in a box and taped it up and put it on the porch and left it out there. And then it showed a guy with one of the Ring door alarms on the camera. The guy grabs the box and you can hear him say, "Man, this MFer's heavy. This must be good." And like he's running to the car and he gets in, and the whole song's about, "I scooped the pee and poop for you. Just for you, for Christmas for you." And it's just this whole song, but it's hilarious because this is the time of year when there's porch pirates going around. And speaking of Amazon delivering, I think I have a package that's been taken recently. I ordered something and it hasn't come yet. It's been like 2 weeks, so I'm gonna wait another, and I'm gonna have to track it. But might have to do that. I do have cameras on the outside of my house, but regardless. Anyway, you're watching Session Stream Live from Shakers, and you are back with us for episode 21. This is our 21st episode,
Nice.
Danny. Yeah, we've been going at it. Not
How
sure.
many weeks is that?
It is. It's 5 months basically.
21
Yeah, it's 21 weeks, but 5 months. I wanted to know if it was 6 months or 5 months, and so I counted. We're in the 5th month. So.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty good.
21.
21. So I'm gonna let Cody get back for this next one because I want him to hear about it. I've been I do a lot of reading and looking into stuff. And look at how good a server you are, man. You got years of practice. Years of practice. What are you drinking, Guinness?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm made of.
That's what you're made of? That's that stout. I'm reading Angela's Ashes right now, so that's a... Hey, Kel.
I have returned.
Cody's back. All right, we can move on to the next subject. Has anybody ever heard of the Call of the Void?
Pretty low amount of people, I'd say.
I might need a little background on this.
Okay. So the Call of the Void. Have you ever heard of Call of the Void?
Not really here right now, man.
You're in the Call of the Void. So basically, the Call of the Void it's the feeling you get when, for example, you're standing on top of a building. You're like, oh, I could just jump.
No, that's not what that's called. That's the English translation. It's got a different word.
No, it's Call of the Void.
No, sir.
I looked it up. I just looked all this up, man. Anyway, I don't know about the English. I'm talking about English.
This is
talking about
America.
where
We're
there's a
talking about
German
what
word
Americans
that-
call
It's
it.
American language, not English. Anyway, the Call of the Void is basically you get this feeling of you're standing on a building and you think I could just step off and jump. They also compare it to the Call of the Void is the same thing that you feel like I could reach out and strangle you or choke you. And you have it for a brief second, and then you pull yourself back.
I mean, in the service
So-
industry,
French.
you have it all the time.
The original is...
Yeah, we don't like
is
France in here. Get out of here, Frenchman.
La Pierre du Ville.
Yeah,
Oui,
we don't care, Frenchman.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah, no. Poo.
Mademoiselle? Omelette du flamand?
Yeah. Anyway, there's other translation, obviously, but the Call of the Void, and it's basically that feeling you get, or like you're sitting in traffic and I could just drive my car into this tree. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that. You ever felt that before?
Pretty sure those are called
absolutely,
suicidal thoughts too.
Well, no, because it's not. Suicidal thoughts mean you actually think out a way to kill yourself. When you get the Call of the Void, it's not actually you want to kill yourself. It's the thought of what would happen.
I could
do this. Yeah. So what they think it is, the studies and research they've done is they think that it's the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind colliding, and for a minute they're meshed. In a minute they both realize they exist. So in other words, our brain, our conscious mind does not realize there's a subconscious mind. Subconscious exists all on its own, according to some psychologists. And they believe in this point of the Call of the Void that these two, they collide with each other, and they're like, oh, you do exist. He does exist. And then they get confused, and that's the Call of the Void where you got to get lost and your thought is gone. So I wanted to talk about that for a second because they did studies with college kids, and they believe it's brought on by like anxiety and stress, and it gets worse the more stressed you are. Strangely enough, people that are dying don't ever experience it. There's a resolution when you are feeling that you're going to die. There's a resolution to it where you're like,
We call it fuck it.
Well, and I think since you're in the situation, you're allowed to say however you want to say it. But you're resolute when you know that you're passing. You see a lot of people when they're on their deathbed, they look to their family, are like, okay, it's time for me to go, and they know they're leaving and everything. But they say it doesn't happen. It only happens with people that are alive and vibrant and living life. So I wanted to speak to that for a second. When people in life snap, you hear about people just snapping out.
Going
Postal, so to speak. And there's some of you that don't know what going postal means. So I'm going to let Danny.
It's irony.
And I don't want anything to do with you.
I'm gonna let Danny actually, because I remember I was there for all of the news reports, but I'm gonna let you describe and tell people what going postal actually goes back to.
Going postal goes back to whenever a postal worker climbed a tower at a nursing college and started picking off nurses one after the other with a rifle. Is what that actually refers to.
Right. So there was a time in this country, and it was in the 80s and early 90s, late 70s, where people were, for some reason, the post office made people really upset. It wasn't the DMV of all places. You know, you'd think the DMV would drive people nuts, but it was actually the post office. So there were employees for post offices and also people going in post offices, and they were shooting up post offices and killing people, and like you said, standing on the tower and picking people off. There was something about the job with the post office that was driving people crazy. And the interaction, for some reason, we had this love-hate thing with the post office and mail. I don't know why. We relied on mail a whole lot more back in those days. We didn't have email and we didn't have all this stuff. But anyway, that's where going postal comes from. So I want to talk about that for a minute. the times in our lives when we have moments that we feel like we're going to snap out. And now I can feel myself getting to the edge. I don't know about you guys, but I know when I'm right to that edge. And I usually back myself off, and I usually get away from everybody, and I give myself some time to kind of let it chill.
I've been on both ends of that. I've found myself calm, cool, and collect after I've been at the edge, and I've been pushed over the edge, and I black out, and people have to tell me what I did afterwards. So
did you find that, do you believe that there were precursors and things that were triggers for you, or did you think it was all you?
There's definitely precursors and triggers that led up to it. I mean, I was bullied very heavily whenever I was in high school, or not high school, but in school leading up to high school. And the one instance I can think of, I was in 8th grade. A guy who bullied me all the time. We got into a physical altercation, and we were fighting in the middle of our classroom. And you chilly? Because I'm freezing my ass off over here.
I'm cold.
He doesn't feel good.
But he kicked me into a TV, and that's the last thing I remember. And the next thing I remember is they were pulling me off of him. I picked him up, slammed him on a desk, and choked him halfway across the classroom. And that's the very first time in my life I ever blacked out because I was so angry. But yeah, there's definitely.
So you went into that part of your brain that is the lost part, and that's the thing is, Cody, have you ever been in that situation where you've kind of lost your semblance of reality and just kind of coasted off into craziness?
I don't really get angry, man. I can't even imagine what somebody would have to do to get me angry. Seriously, really? I'm just not. I mean, I get like annoyed and perturbed and like slightly, but dude, like to get me like to a point where I'm blackout angry, you'd have to really have fucking tried to push my buttons. Like,
do you ever worry about that though?
No,
because
I feel like I'm in pretty control of myself for real.
I don't think that you're not in control of yourself, but I'm saying, I think just like Danny described and like I've been there, if you don't at least have one or two of those moments in your life, how do you know what you're going to do when you get there?
Yeah,
you just do it. I mean, obviously, like if you black out and just takes over, you're going to know what to do at the time anyway.
You don't feel like you've ever been to that point? Wow.
I'm like the most chill person. Have you ever seen me like legit mad?
Well,
not annoyed.
I've seen you frustrated.
Not annoyed. Exactly. Not frustrated. Not annoyed.
Like things that frustrate
pissed.
you,
like I'm screaming at somebody. I'm yelling at somebody.
You yelled at somebody at DJ booth because they were screwed with your song list. But other than that, I've never seen you mad.
I mean, that's because he was across the room and there was loud music playing. That wasn't because I was mad.
You were like every time you put a song,
okay,
you switched it.
But I was annoyed.
Stop!
But I definitely didn't fucking do it like that.
You did.
But no, I was annoyed. I was definitely annoyed. But no, I don't usually get mad, man. I'm not a really angry person.
So, is it not? Have you always been that way, or?
When I was younger, I guess I kind of lashed out a little bit, but not in still not in a like crazy way or anything.
Do you think does it make you feel uncomfortable when you start feeling mad?
Oh yeah, I'll walk away.
Okay, so you just don't deal with it. Oh, okay. Well,
not that I won't deal with it. I'll walk away. I'll fucking collect my thoughts. I'll calm down. I'll come back and I'll deal with it. What's left.
Man, I don't know how you do that because I'm good now because I know how to turn it off and get away because I'm older. But like Danny said, man, I was bullied in school.
Well, dude, if I was literally getting like physically touched and no, I'm not gonna just like, give me a second to walk away and I'll come back and figure this out later. I'm gonna fucking lash out, obviously. But I mean,
I grew up in, and I'm a little older than Cody, but I grew up in the mid-'90s in a little town just outside of Chicago. And it's in a pre-Columbine, pre-9/11 world where everybody was kind of okay with violence in society. We've made strides to move away from embracing that kind of mentality. But whenever I was a kid, like sometimes you get in a fight at school and the teachers would look the other way because they didn't like you, or maybe you pissed them off or something. And now if you get in a fight in school, they suspend you for like 3 days, and it's a huge deal, and like you'll be on
even
the
if you
news,
don't do anything.
Like a few years ago, there was a kid in a preschool, and he was deaf, and his name was Hunter, and sign language for Hunter is this. And they kicked him out of school because he wouldn't stop saying his name.
Yeah, I remember that
with
story.
the official sign language. Like we've become so sensitive to this kind of shit that it's a whole different world from what I grew up in. Because honestly, we were so violent. And
was that his signing name, or was that the?
That's the sign language for Hunter.
Well, no, that's
like this.
I understand that is ASL for Hunter, but when you practice ASL and you're dependent on it, you have a sign name.
Okay.
So that's what I was asking.
That was his name then. I mean.
Well, and that's the other thing is there's also letters for Hunter, which probably would have been a better way to do it. Maybe just easier just to do the
3.
Yeah.
They kicked him out of school because he wouldn't stop doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't going to go off.
No.
You know?
No, and that's where it has to be some reasonability. But here's the thing, I think there's two sides to everything. In this situation, I've felt the darkness in my mind, and I say all the way down to me so because I've blacked out before when I was mad, and it's the most uncomfortable feeling because when you black out, of course, you have no idea what's going on. When you basically come back into things, people are explaining to you, or you look around at what you've done, and most of the time you don't feel good about it.
Right. It's
Oh,
the
no,
same
I felt that before. It just wasn't from anger.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the same as being blackout drunk and your friends all having to tell you about the stupid shit you did. It's not a good feeling.
Maybe that's why I don't get drunk.
It's not a good feeling to
I've
not
never
be in
been-
control of yourself.
I've never been blackout drunk and put someone through a wall though and not realize it.
Right.
Really? So so I don't get drunk anymore. I haven't gotten drunk in a long, long time. But when I used to get drunk,
Same.
I would get so.
Why'd you
I
laugh?
would get so drunk because I've seen you drunk in the last month.
Definitely
Last
not
week.
me.
I would get so drunk that I would lose little pieces of my night, didn't know where I was at. So it would have been very easy for me to do something that I don't remember that I did. And I know a guy that had temper, anger issues, and got drunk. And one night he raped a girl, didn't know he did it. And we swore that he knew he did it, but he literally told us. Now he obviously got arrested and got in trouble, but
Yeah.
he was
As he should have.
he should have immediately, but he was dating the girl like they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and then he gets really drunk, they get into a fight, and he blacks out and he does something terrible, and he comes to and he's apologizing. He's like, oh my God, he goes, I'm so sorry. Like, he didn't know. He literally, from what I know about the guy, didn't know. And so the reason I brought this up is because people, I don't think you ever really know what you're made of until you go to those parts in your body. No offense to you.
It's true.
But I don't think you really know, like, for example, you don't know what it's like to get in a fight till you've been punched and beat down and punched in the face. You really don't know what you can take and can't take. And so I'm not saying go out and get in a fight, but I'm saying that you have
But who's ready?
yeah,
I think
but you
that's-
have to experience these things. You have to be there to kind of know that it's a sickness, it's an emptiness you feel, like that twist in your gut when you're like, oh my God, what did I do?
I don't think violence is always the answer to every single situation, but I also think that at some point in your life you're going to plant your feet and you're going to stand for something, and it's probably going to lead to you having to fight somebody. That's how life is. And I can honestly tell you from personal experience, I'm a trained martial artist and I've been in some fights in my life. There is no more beautiful time in your life than when you're going to fight somebody, because it's the only time in your life that you know exactly what that other person is thinking and intending.
Yeah.
It's pure. It's so pure. You don't have to guess. You're not trying to figure out their motivations.
It goes to
you
the
know
core of-
exactly
yeah.
what they want. They know exactly what you want, and you just do it. You know, like
Well, there's a certain harmony and happiness in finality, in an answer, in closure. And
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
When you reach that point where you know that's the only thing that there is,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, you're going to punch me in the face at some point. You're going
Well,
to try to, and
politics,
yeah.
society, it all just kind of slips away, you know, and it's such a pure part of our existence that, you know, I'm not saying embrace it for every situation, you know, like somebody cut you off in traffic, don't chase them down, pull them out of the car and beat the shit out of them.
Oh, okay. Let me take that off my list then, because I was going to.
But if you know, sometimes, and I think it's true of every single person, sometimes you're the hero of your story, and sometimes you're the villain of somebody else's story. And we all have those moments where we're just being a jackass, and somebody needs to set us straight.
Or God forbid, you're the villain of your own story.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I think sometimes I admit that I was the bad guy in this situation, and it's hard to take. But once you realize that, you can sometimes start fixing some stuff about yourself.
Absolutely.
Zach, I know you've been in fights.
Oh, yeah.
I know you've been attacked, you've been bullied. So you were in foster care, so you saw some of the darkest parts of people, and this part we're talking about, that height of, I'm not going to say insanity, because sometimes it's clarity.
Exactly.
Sometimes you are when you go to that worst part of yourself, you become very clear and very settled. And I think that's in your situation. Did you ever feel that? Did you ever get there?
Oh, God, yeah.
Do you think that's why now you're so resolute about things where
Sure.
you are like you're set on,
I won't just throw a punch now. There was a time. There was most definitely a time. But no, I've been there a lot. I mean, like, when I made that comment earlier, like, sure, I've been blackout drunk. Hell, I think we all have.
yeah.
But I've also been, like, blackout anger, where when you're throwing a person off your balcony or you're putting them through a wall,
Yeah.
and you're like, shit, probably shouldn't have done that.
So one of my big issues was when Cody, you've been in a fight before.
Yeah,
Like
well,
a
see,
fist fight?
I've been in a lot of fights, but due to some clauses, I can't really talk about it.
Okay, but when you've been in a fight,
Somebody got that, right? Jesus Christ. Okay, thank
yeah, I
you.
got it.
The first and
When you've been
second.
in a fight, have you ever thought about, and maybe you can answer this too, I know I've done this, when I'm standing face to face with somebody and you think about the aftermath of what could happen, that's kept me out of a lot of fights. Because I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to fight you, man. This is not even worth it. I'm just not going to put myself in that situation. Because, first of all, either you think you're going to clean the floor with the person. You're like, this is not fair. Or secondly, you're not sure what you're going to do to the person, that you're really mad at the person. So, and that comes up a lot, I know, in my life with relationships. Now, God bless my wife now. I haven't had this situation with her, but in my past, there were times in relationships where I laid next to somebody that I either thought was going to kill me or I wanted to kill. No, I'm just saying.
Dude.
Yeah, I know. It's rough. It is. When you live in a relationship with somebody that you're laying next to someone that is your worst enemy or your best friend. And it's day in and day out that way. So you find yourself, as a man especially, when you're not supposed to put hands on a woman, you find yourself questioning yourself and saying, you know, everything you can to do to not roll over and go, yeah. So have you never been in that situation where you've...
I'm divorced. I'm happily
Oh, I am
divorced.
too. I'm divorced 3
but,
times.
you know, we fell out of love with each other, but I don't think at any point were we like worst enemies or anything. I mean,
Well,
we're
God
still
bless you.
friends. I mean, we're raising 5 kids together, so.
Well, that's awesome.
But yeah, no, thankfully I haven't been in that situation. I
I
mean,
guess with the Irish comes the Catholic, huh?
Well, and in my case, my ex and I we did not co-parent at all. We were both emotionally immature and weren't thinking about the kids.
but, I mean, obviously there's toxic relationships in the world. I think we all can at least think of one. If you just, you at least know one.
If I
you
really
think of
think
one?
about it,
If you know at least one, I'm sure you know at least one person in your life who either is in or has been in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've not experienced that myself, but I mean, I can.
You
see it
really
from your
haven't ever
perspective.
in 30, how many years?
37.
So you started dating about 16, 17 years old, give or take?
About 17.
Okay. In that many years, you've not experienced one
So
toxic
in high
relationship?
School, in high school, I dated one girl prior to my ex-wife, and then when I was 17, we got
so
together.
you dated one girl through high school?
No, I dated one girl prior to my ex-wife.
Oh,
and
okay.
then she was 15 and I was 17 when my ex-wife and I got together, and we were together for 13 years. prior to our
Oh,
divorce.
so you were very, just
Yeah.
a couple of girls.
I've been in 3 serious relationships.
Well, then
in my
you're
life.
smart, then, because I was in several.
Yeah.
And I think when you get in too many, you end up not being able to get settled into who you are as a person. And you were smart and didn't keep getting in relationships. I admire you for that, because I was dumb. I was stupid.
I think I've just been fortunate.
Well, maybe you saw some things that you didn't want to see happen. Maybe you saw other people in that situation, or you knew about it and you didn't want to do it, so you were smart enough to choose the better road. I don't know. I mean, God bless you for it. And
Thanks.
that was good timing.
it didn't happen for me until I met my wife now. So, I mean, I feel very fortunate. And I use all that as, yes. Zach's going to go ahead and take off. He's not feeling very good. It's been a rough week for you, buddy.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, man.
No problem.
You need to tell me how today went.
I'll shoot you some messages, man.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to go close out.
All right, buddy.
Hey, Zach. Have a good night, brother.
Can you ask Bailey to get me a beer?
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
So, he's been sick this week, man. We feel bad for him.
Same.
Went to the doctor today, so I guess he'll let me know what's going on. But anyway, he's not his usual jovial like self. Yeah,
You can tell.
yeah. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic since we kind of got through that stuff. And the reason I wanted to do this topic is because we're in that time of the year when, wintertime's coming along and, people were out and about and a lot of stuff, crazy stuff going on. And I don't know if you guys know much about it, but I've been a doomsday prepper for a while. And I want to try to get away from the craziness of it and talk about the reason that people prepare.
Okay.
And that, I think, is more important than the fact that doomsday prepping has always had a bad rap, because typically the guys they picture as doomsday preppers are crazy white guys in their basement, and doing crazy
Unlike
stuff.
you.
Unlike me, yeah, because I come out of my basement every once in a while. But the truth of the matter is the reason that I got into it is thank you, waitress.
Thank you, sir.
Zach, we love you, man. Be safe. Get some rest, buddy. The reason that I got into it was several years ago, about probably 6 or 7 years ago, is I started, really because of a movie. And the movie was The Road. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie.
I am not.
With Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen. The kid?
Yeah.
It was
And
a book.
basically,
It was a book that was turned
it started as a book and then went to movie. But the movie's basically end of world scenario, and there's a big explosion, nuclear weapon or something. And basically, they never really say there was a big explosion. They don't say what happened. Basically, in the story, the wife basically offs herself or runs off, and then there's a little boy and the dad still left, and they're left to kind of roam the country. And basically, it's their survival, and the dad ends up getting sick and dying, and the little boy finds another family to go to. And anyway, it's really dark, and it's
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, it's several
It's
years
been out
old.
for a minute or
It's
two.
been out for several years. But anyway, the point to it is that movie kind of made me start looking at things, and I started evaluating my safety and was I prepared. And so I started probably early in my marriage to my wife, Melissa, kind of starting to get food and water and things like that and being prepared. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because when I did this on my radio, I had an internet radio show for a while. When I did this on there, I had a lot of people tune into it and listen, because a lot of people were trying to, get into it a little bit. Is he walking home?
Yes.
He doesn't look very steady.
He's not looking bad.
Is that all right?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. And so I wanted to make sure that, especially when you have kids like you do, you want to be prepared. And so I set about studying doomsday prepping. Mm-hmm. If we leave the doomsday part off of it, we just call it prepping, it sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
It's more
Sounds
like
more rational, for sure.
It sounds very rational. Now, the doomsday was on there because it's typically end of world scenarios. So let's just take that off of it, and let's just talk about the what, when, whys, tips to follow, and things like that. So I'm going to give a few things about it, and then we're going to talk about different scenarios and things like that. And if you guys have even thought about it, because I've got a kind of a hidden motive for this, is I'm trying to make sure you guys are going to educate yourselves on it, and that you guys can be prepared for something that can happen. So
I have zombie apocalypse flashcards.
good deal. No,
Real.
that's the kind of stuff that actually makes doomsday prepping seem crazy, is because people line it up with stuff like zombie apocalypse.
There's a zombie scenario protocol that the CDC has established.
The
in the off
government
chance
has
that it happens.
yes,
so
the government actually has one.
you say it's crazy, but
Well, and it won't be.
they just reanimated a dead pig.
Well, it won't be
In Germany,
Walking
so-
Dead. It will be 28 days later.
Right, yeah.
That'll be what we'll have.
The idea of a virus that would hit society and just take you down to your baser instincts, and
Yeah.
you would just be running around killing and slaughtering
Yeah.
wholesale with no frontal lobe controlling anything.
Like the movie
And
The
that's-
Crazies. That's another one. So my scenario, my biggest fear scenario is not a nuclear weapon. It's more of a natural disaster, or the power grid goes down. The natural disaster could bring that on. And so I want to kind of go through a scenario and let everybody picture this for a second. So I'm going to kind of tell a little story.
Do we need to
Quick
close our
one.
eyes?
Yes, close your eyes and listen. So you go to bed one night, you're laying in bed, and you hear, before you go to bed, you look on Facebook and there's a couple reports of some earthquakes in the area. You don't really think a lot about it. You're not feeling shakes at your house, so you kind of lay down, you kind of get comfortable, and then you feel the shakes, then you feel the earthquake. It's so bad that you actually can't go to sleep, so you sit up and you run out, and you realize that your whole building's shaking or your whole house is shaking, so you run outside, and you're looking around you as buildings start to disappear into the ground and start to crumble. as that happens, of course, the power all goes out. We lose power everywhere in the city. In turn, there's no running water because the wells and the pumps are all out.
Other than this big old body of water right
This
here.
big body of water, which is you'll have to have filters to clean, but regardless of that, you'll have that. But the problem with that is there could be a fissure or a big enough slice in the earth where that could run right into it, and you have another Mississippi River. So we're talking drastic stuff, but this is the
Redirected
scenario.
once.
Yeah, that's true. It did get redirected. So the scenario that I'm talking about is we live on one of the biggest fault lines in the entire world. New Madrid fault line is one of the biggest fault lines, and we're almost dead center right in the middle of it. So my reason for prepping was I had a fear that the New Madrid fault would shift. We'd have this huge big earthquake, and then here we are with no power and no water. So I have enough food and water in my shelter in my house for 6 months for my family. They say you should have 3 months, at least 3 months. And I also have bug out bags for my family, so if we have to leave quickly and go. And it's simple. They're not like on a mounting station by the door. It's not something that we drill every single day, although I think people should practice it. But it is something my daughters are aware that I have, and that my wife's aware that I have. Now, my wife thinks it's silly. There's no need for it. But her mom, my mother-in-law, actually has kind of gone along with it and said, hey, that's just extra insurance. So I want to come at it from that standpoint. So prepping in general, have you prepped at all?
No.
You have no prepping. So if there was an emergency today, you would have just a day or two of food in your house, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that saying it out loud like that's supposed to scare me or at least concern me, right? But I already know I've got a crew of like 7 or 8 dudes that as soon as that happens, like we're just gonna band together. Like I know
That's my plan.
I call Cody.
If
I don't call Cody, I go to Cody's house. We find each other. We'll figure it out. But I can put together like a small army in a very short amount of time, just calling on my friends group, and then we're gonna come to your house.
Are you?
I mean, there's 6 months worth of food there for us, right?
For my family. Yeah. For my family.
In my scenario,
Good luck.
Sir,
Good luck.
I need it more than you.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. My Christianity goes away then.
we're talking by force.
I mean,
Oh, no, good luck.
Probably,
got a lot of good
probably
on
a little bit arrogant, but I'm 6'2", I'm 200-something pounds.
Yeah.
I'm a trained fighter. I've got a small army of friends I can call upon. I think we're gonna be all right.
So let me pose this to you
I
because
have a longbow with an 80-pound draw that will drop any game in North America. I'm efficient with it. Spent hours and hours training with it.
so let me ask you this.
So I guess I'm a little prepped.
Okay, so you do have a little prep. So let me ask you this: since you brought up, you got a small army of guys that you can get a hold of. How are you going to get a hold of them?
I'll just go to their house, man.
Really? In the chaos, you're going to go to their house.
I've already got my entire fucking plan, dude. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
so you are prepping a little.
I'm in a sense. So
Okay.
if anything were to happen, my plan is to, because I never plan. I would want to travel. I would want to stay in the same place. That's
you wanna
that's
get
how you
out
get
and
caught.
travel.
That's how you get caught, man. Like if you stay in the same place and people are going to be traveling and they're going to come to you, and yeah, you can fend off a few people, but eventually you're going to run out of ammunition. You know what I mean?
You know,
eventually,
statistically,
you know what I mean?
the worst place to be in the first month of that situation would be on the road. You're safer to stay right at home, but
I'm not going to be on the
regardless.
road. Here's my plan.
Oh, okay, good.
So we're on the Mississippi River.
Okay.
My plan is to get everything I might need in a small, short amount of time. Fucking go to Walmart and just raid whatever I got to do to get my supplies that I need. I'm going to hop on a boat. I'm going to go down the Mississippi River, and I'm going to go all the way into the Gulf, and I'm going to find a offshore oil rig, and I'm going to stay in one of those because they are literally designed to sustain somebody for years.
Okay. So, how many people do you think the same way you think?
Well, after the Max Brooks books, probably quite a few because it's like the best scenario.
So here's my thing. This is why I say this, and I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. I just want to offer advice and a little information. The biggest thing that you have to think about is everybody that thinks the way you think. There's more people that think the way you think than the way I think. So there's way more people thinking, oh, I got buddies and friends. I'll get a hold of them. So imagine everybody doing that, but you're not. In other words, you go get Cody, right? You're like, Cody, let's go. All right, man, we're going to go down. We're going to do this. First of all, how much food do you have that you can survive on? Secondly, you're not going to be able to just go to Walmart. Sorry, that's out.
That was a joke.
But my thing is that's the things I want you guys to think about. I'm not saying you got to just uproot, and just go, oh my God, I got to build a bunker. What I'm saying to everybody out there, and I'm saying this to men in general, single moms, anybody that has a family they have to take care of, that you're responsible for somebody. whether it's just yourself or other people, is you can do little things in your life that can prep you and make you ready for an emergency. For example, if the power went out for a week at your house, right?
I've lived that.
Right.
It's happened to me.
Say the whole town of Cape was out, meaning Mary Jane's out, your place of appointment's out, so nobody's got power. So you're not going to be at work, you're going to be at home, right? Do you have food beside what's in your refrigerator that you can live on for a week?
I think with like beans and rice and shit, yeah.
Okay, so you have a way to boil the
Plus
water
I got
to
5
make beans
kids,
and
so
rice?
we just start eating the smallest one first. Work our way up.
That's you're not supposed to start with the kids. You're supposed
Oh.
to like wait till the end when there's no food left. So, and you're supposed to actually
Love you, kids.
Yeah, Daddy's gonna eat us, Mom. So the point here is what I want you guys to think about, and this is the reason I wanted to do this is. There's somebody out there that's thinking just like you guys, and they haven't even thought about it. They're like, oh, I've heard this stuff. It's ridiculous. It's silly. Look, I'm not saying you got to go buy guns and ammo, and I'm saying have enough stuff for 3 or 4 days in your house, whether it's food and water, and it doesn't matter what you get. You can get the meals that you get from like a food place that you buy them off the internet, or you can get them from Walmart, whatever you need to do. You want to get stuff like, and I'm going to give you some of these tips, actual things to buy, but get enough food and water and medical supplies for 3 days. This is what I would say to everyone, right? 3 days is kind of the minimum. I would recommend to everybody to do that because at the very least, in the back of your mind, you've got that insurance policy. Okay, I know I'm good for 3 days. Then past 3 days, we're going to have to figure something out. But I want everyone to feel the comfort that I feel. Now, is there a chance that something's going to fall on my house? We're all going to die? Sure, that could happen. The earthquake could suck my house in.
I am also I got pretty fucking far into the Boy Scouts, and I'm definitely an outdoorsman. I honestly believe that if I needed to, I could go out in the woods and survive for at least a couple weeks.
I don't doubt that, and I don't doubt you probably could too. I'm sure you're the kind of guy that's going to figure some stuff out.
I could set a snare. I could
I
hunt
believe
an
it.
animal.
I believe it. And
Skin and clean and
skin clean and cook. Eat it.
I'm prepared to set snares and hunt and cook and do that, but I want to do it when I don't have anything else.
Right.
I want to be prepared for that before. Like I don't want to go.
I don't know.
Woods.
Hunger's a great motivator.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go into the woods until I have to.
Well, it's interesting because you're talking about a doomsday scenario. Society's never coming back. You might as well start, right? Like you got food for 3 months, 6 months, but you might as well start, right? You might as well start stocking food. You might as well start smoking meat. You might as well start making some beef jerky. You might want to go
Salt. If you don't have salt in your, do you have salt in your
cut
like
some barbed
big bags
wire
of salt? 'Cause
fences,
that's
get you a
huge
few
for
cows.
storing and
I
drying
got
meats and shit like
I got
that.
a 5
I'm saying
pound
Fuck
bag
yeah,
of
dude.
it.
maybe find somebody dumb enough to trade your car for their horse, or
No, but your point is right.
write checks for everything you need.
Yeah, like my thing is to everybody out there is to think of it. If I just start a conversation between someone out there and their family member, or some kid that lives by themselves and their dad lives by themselves, and they call them up and say, "Hey, Dad, do you have any food and water at your house?" Everybody should have some type of preparation for emergencies. It can start like, okay, we're ready for an earthquake or tornado, and then build into a little more. All I'm saying to people is there are so many people out there right now. And when I did my show on the internet, there were a lot of people that called me for advice because they didn't really know where to start. And I kind of helped them get started on it. It can start with as little as $20 to $30 a payday. Take $20 and go to the store and get some water. Take $20, get some medicine. And here's the other thing. There's going to be a lot of medical needs when you have emergencies. Lots of medical needs. And a lot of people are not prepared at their house. They have Band-Aids and maybe some gauze and some tape. But we're talking about some major things that can happen. So I would also say to people is have some really good medical kits or some first aid kits at your house.
And antiseptics and things that you're actually
just so you know, if you needed help, I would help you. Just so you know, I would give you water and food. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't come to your door like a beggar. The very first thing you want to do is you establish a place to get clean water.
Yep.
Item 2 is shelter. You want somewhere where you can fortify yourself, stay, live, get out of the elements.
Yeah.
Which in Missouri you could live in the elements here. Like
Right.
our winters aren't that harsh. Our summers aren't that harsh. You could live outside
Really, if you are
Missouri.
prepared for the winter, meaning for we get down to -10 sometimes, but it's not much.
But if you're bundled up and have blankets, you can survive that.
Right. You can build fires. There's
Build
ways
a fire.
you can survive. So what I would say to you, if you are someone that doesn't understand survival at all, if you are someone that's kind of been pampered and not really gotten out much, if you've never camped, if you've never
Which
hunted,
is a lot of fucking
there's a
people
lot of
these
people.
days.
I would say to you, start doing some research. YouTube is a great outlet to go to. Lots of people on YouTube are teaching things to people on how to find sources of water, how to find food, all that kind of stuff, and those are things that you can do. But like Danny said, I want to do this for the next half hour. Is give you some tips and some advice, and then I'm going to give you some scenarios, because there's a guy that called me on my show from California and he had a really good story that was real world, and I think it applies. So first thing is you want to start now, and like you said, you might as well start. No big deal. Tomorrow, go to the store and get a few things that you can keep for a long time. So food source that stays good. For peanut butter never goes bad as long as you keep the air off of it. It stays good. Pasta, any kind of pasta. Rice, as long as you keep moisture off of it and keep it dry, it'll stay good. Canned goods are not good. Canned goods are only good for a few years, and then they get moldy inside because they have air.
Still, I mean, if you're going to be it's still going to last for a few years.
I have some, and that's true. The bad thing is, because of the metal, there's botulism involved, so you got to be careful eating canned foods. But the bottom line is, it's better to have it than not at all. And then water, you don't want to have purified water, because that goes bad too. You want to have distilled, or you want to have some water tablets. You can get those at Walmart, and those drop right in water. They keep the water fresh, and because water has bacteria in it, and the bacteria will build up, and you can actually drink bad water and get sick.
And distilled literally means heated till vapor and then collected from the vapors. That's all distillation means. So if you can make distilled water over a fire. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Sure can. It's the cleanest type of way to drink water is distilled. And then filtering water is pretty simple. I'm gonna if somebody wants some of these tips, like actual how to do this stuff, I'll supply that another time, or you can contact me. I'd say plan like your life depends on it. The reason I say that is because you literally does depend on it. There's you have to buy car insurance. You have hopefully some of you are able to have health insurance, but there's a reason we have insurance. You consider this a personal.
Okay,
bougie. Jesus.
So look, I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for my wife, so I'm just saying. But we have insurance to protect ourselves in case of emergencies or things that happen, and that's what this is. This is a personal insurance policy.
Insurance is always a bet against your own health or safety.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like going to the casino and placing a bet that I'm going to drop X amount of money, and God forbid something terrible happened to me, you got to pay me back.
Yeah, it really is. And in this situation, you kind of read, the sense of what normally is a thought process, what's normal thought process, kind of goes out the window, because it's a weird, chaotic, anarchist type attitude. You're gonna go ahead.
Just one personal thing: don't ever equate anarchy and chaos to the same thing. Anarchy is a peaceful belief.
When you're talking about beliefs, I'm talking about the action.
A chaotic action and an anarchist action are not the same.
It
comes from the 70s. Anarchy in the UK, punk movement, that anarchy and being chaotic go hand in hand, because anarchy is a Greek term meaning no government. That's all it means. It means no government. It means don't tell me what to do. That's all it means. It doesn't mean chaos in the streets. It doesn't mean setting buildings on fire. It doesn't mean the fall apart of society or whatever. Anarchy is a value that we should all be working towards. Is a world where we don't need to always be policing each other.
I think
it's the opposite of what people think anarchy is.
Well, I'm
an anarchist.
Right, I agree that what you're saying is true, but I also believe that most people connect anarchy with chaos.
Absolutely, it's a huge.
There's no order, so it's disorderly, and that's what people think. That
is our. When you hear no government, that's your immediate response, like, oh shit, everything would fall apart. But a society that doesn't need governing is a society we should be working towards.
Right. No, I agree with you completely. I'm big negative government. I think in the fact when anarchy, no government.
Ron Swanson's on the show tonight. Jeez.
Well, I'm just saying, I think anarchy in its what you're talking about, like anarchy in the UK and all that. I think, yes, what you're saying, it comes from a Greek word meaning no government, but it also has been used in this world, not just in this country, but in this world, to describe disorder.
You're not wrong.
And I'm
Just
not
people
saying
who
it's
use it
right.
that way are wrong.
I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, I think it's going to be hard if
It's a stigma.
yeah, it's a stigma, and I get that we want to try to use it the right way, but it is used the right way because there won't be a government. There will be no order. What I mean by end of the world scenario, doomsday.
There will be a government.
Well, you're not going to
If-
listen to it though.
If I put together a posse of 20 or 30 people who are strong enough to threaten your life and you have to do what we say, that's a government.
Government, technically.
Well, you're being governed.
That's a government.
We're talking about. I'm
not the
talking about
government
an
you want.
actual,
It's
an
not a
actual
democracy.
government
It's a
where
government.
it's elected and all that. You're talking about forced governance.
Tribal government,
forced governance,
like we've had since the dawn of time. We've never once in our history, in any society, anywhere, ever had an anarchy.
But do you? I don't. But there's a lot of people in the scholastic community, if you want to say that, educated community that has studied this stuff, that says that the human race cannot exist without order, and it has to have a governing body of laws.
It's a defeatist mentality.
I know, but I'm saying now you have to defeat that mentality though, because that's what you're going
That's what we
against.
should be working towards.
So
Absolutely.
you believe that if there were a chaotic situation, and I'll stay with chaotic so we stay fair with it. If there's a chaotic situation in the world and say basically everything was just nuts, you think that everyone would find their own governance and everything would be okay?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way we've always done things. If society as a whole fell apart, we would put a government in place. It'd be a king. It'd be somebody ruling. It would be somebody telling somebody else what to do and listening. It's whoever has the power to enforce that.
Which you would not agree
a
is
government.
is great. It's not a good idea.
No, God, no.
It's terrible, right? So my thing is
Well, I don't know. Am I the one ruling?
you don't want, but you're not that guy. You're not that guy.
I mean, I'm a steward. I'm descended from kings, so
Well, so my thing, the everyday thought process of people is we like to feel safe, right?
Absolutely.
We like to feel like there's someone protecting us, right? So this is why I wanted to do this, is because this is going to take away those securities. If something takes those away of where we have a police department, this is the story I'm going to tell, when there is no police available, when we're left to our own defense. So let me finish these things, and then I really want to spend about 15 minutes talking about that because it's very interesting. So the other thing is you concentrate on big picture. So you concentrate on the big thing that you think can happen, and then you're going to talk about with your friends and family small things that might happen, things that you might need to look for. The reason that I became educated and I got better is because I talked to other people that were like-minded, and we were able to bounce ideas, and there's a thought process involved. Challenge yourself with scenarios like we're doing here. We're talking about different things that could happen. You don't want them to happen, but you have to be prepared. Train yourself and your family, especially your kids. One of the biggest, and this is honest, one of the biggest handicaps, and I mean handicap in a depreciated way, not in a physical way, but a handicap or a drawback is children in emergency situations.
You can try to be nice, but we know what you mean. Kids are handicaps.
Kids are an anchor. We love our children. We want them to be healthy. We want the best for them. But in a time of emergency, they are the worst thing to have around because they do not, no matter what you teach them, they are not going to respond properly. They're going to be chaotic, and they're going to be, they're just because they're more instinctual. They go on fear. They go on reaction to your emotions, and so that's why if you train yourself and you're more prepared, you're able to be more level-headed, which will help you, the children, but they're still going to get in the way and cause problems. So train your kids, try to teach them as much as you can about emergencies, what they're supposed to do. My daughters know what to do if I have a heart attack and fall out. They know what to do if someone breaks in the house. So teach your kids, just make them prepared. I'm saying start now. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but if you don't start, you're never going to get to the end of it, and which is keeping yourself safe. Make it a point to discuss this stuff with friends. If you talk to somebody and they're not really interested in talking to you about it, find other people that are interested and hope that someone else hears it and wants to be involved. Know your weaknesses with your shelter, your supplies, your knowledge and experience. One of the biggest things that you have to worry about in an emergency situation, whether it's mass hysteria out here with a fight or if it's at your house, one of the biggest things you have to worry about is what are your weaknesses involved with that? Are you prone to be drawn into something that's dangerous for you, or are you one that likes to stand back and wait for, when you're needed? Know your supplies is a weakness. If you don't have any supplies, if you are without any kind of sustenance for an emergency, you are going to be, it's a weakness. You're going to need things to survive. Now, Danny, you may be one of these people that just go around and just start acting nuts. We don't know. You might be, but you don't know until you're in the situation. I'd like to think that I have myself figured out, and I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to get my family, and we're going to follow the path and do what we're supposed to do, but nobody knows. You hope that you're prepared, but you just know. It's the same thing in a fight. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. And that's, Tyson said that. Everybody has till you get punched in the face. Everybody has a plan until it happens. So same reason you go to, do you own a gun?
I don't. I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but no, I don't.
Have you ever owned a gun?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you go to the range and practice with it?
Well, not necessarily the range. I would just go to my
shoot at
parents'
cats and
house.
stuff.
There's like we have
random
we have a
animals in the
large
neighborhood.
plot of land.
Oh, do you? Okay.
And I would just shoot out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm proficient with guns.
Okay. Well, and that's the other thing is, as much as you can be for guns or against them, it doesn't matter. But in a time of emergency and chaos, having a weapon is not only a way to feel comfortable, but it's also a way to protect your family. Hopefully we don't need it.
So you say weapon.
It's also not a bad skill to learn how to make your own weapons.
You say weapon,
You're not always
meaning a
gonna
gun,
have a tried
but
and true available.
literally anything I can put my hands on
Right.
is a weapon.
That's true. But if you've got 6 or 7 guys invading your home, throwing shit at them is
about
not
who
going
has
to
the
work.
better weapon.
Yeah, it's who has the most powerful and better weapon, and
Yeah.
that's why I say, if you have a
You're talking
shotgun,
about ease of use.
yeah, and something that is quick to use and make noise. A lot of times it's the noise you make. But yeah, if you're sitting on your roof with your bow, with your 80-pound bow, and that's gonna
Honestly, you just put one in somebody.
yeah, it pretty much.
Those other 6 guys
Like
are
you
gonna be
do,
like,
It's either going to kill
"Maybe I
you
don't
or it's a
want this
deterrent.
house."
If you're with like 7 or 8 guys and you look over and your buddy's got an arrow through their head and they fall back like this, you might want to go ahead and take off because
Yeah.
another one's going to come right behind it. But that's the point is being prepared. So I want to spend the next 25 minutes talking about the story that I had, and then we're going to talk about anarchy and chaos and things like that, because I think we can talk about the mental and psychological aspect of it, so we can start using the word anarchy correctly. We can start using the word chaos. I mean, no, seriously, it's important to use the words correctly, so we
absolutely
get
is
rid of the
important.
stigmas, and
That's why it's important to be educated.
Exactly. And we could, I misused the word anarchy, obviously, because you corrected me. It's important to know what words mean and how they should be used, so we don't misuse them, because that can cause a lot of confusion, and we need to be correct. So the story I had was super interesting. I was doing the show, and I was talking about doomsday prepping, and I was getting really detailed. It was a 3-hour show, and it was just me talking, so you can imagine it was just point-by-point issue trying to help people. And I got real in-depth. So this guy from California called in, and I took the call, and it was on Blog Talk Radio, and really nice guy from California. He lives in New York now. This was a couple years ago, and he said he wanted to tell me a story about when emergency came in fact. So when he was in a wildfire in Northern California, and where he lived at became cut off from the rest of town. The way the fire was, he was completely cut off. He said the road that came to his house, it was covered with stuff, and there was fires all around him. So he literally was cut off. His neighborhood, in his direct cul-de-sac and neighborhood, there were maybe 10 to 12 houses. He said in that area that they were basically their own little community. All power was off. They oftentimes shut power off when there's fires, and they did that, out there in California. They shut power off occasionally when they think there's going to be, fires. But anyway, the fires had basically caused the power to go out. So they're in the dark, and you're talking about it was for about almost a week and a half. So this guy told me that you could call the police department, but the police department had a recording that said, we are not taking calls at this time. If you have an emergency, defend yourself to the best of your ability, and then try to call back X time. So literally, you were on your own.
Cool.
Yeah. And so this guy tells me, he says, I'm so glad you're doing this episode, because you never think it's going to be you. You're sitting in your house, or you're sitting in the bar having a drink, and you never think, hey, this is going to happen to me. But this guy was one of those guys, and he had a wife and 2 kids. Luckily, he was prepared. Now, California has some pretty strict gun laws. He had to get a license, and he had a gun, but all he had was a shotgun. He was allowed to have a shotgun, no pistols, no anything like that, no handguns. So during this time while this is going on, within 3 or 4 days, guys in trucks with masks on were going door to door, stealing, robbing people, strong arm robbing people. He said that there was a group of 6 or 7 guys that were on foot, and they walked up into the neighborhood, and the neighborhood had established a neighborhood watch protocol where one guy, these 2 guys on the edge of the only way in, were kind of the watch guys, and they would let everybody else know. They'd either call out or they had some signal, or I don't remember what he said. Basically, they'd let everybody know in the area, hey, there's strangers in the area. So this signal comes out. So the guy that called into my show said he got his shotgun ready, and he called the police. This is 3 or 4 days into the fire, and the police answered the phone, and he said, listen, there's a group of 6 or 7 guys. They're all armed with weapons. I'm not sure what weapons they have, but they're all walking through the neighborhood. And she said, yes, we're aware that there are several groups of guys going through neighborhoods doing this kind of stuff. And the dispatcher said, lock your doors and stay inside, and we'll try to get somebody out there, but it's not likely we can get anybody out there. So basically, he was on his own. So what he did was he locked his doors, and he basically sat in his living room, and they waited. And then he looked out the window, and of course, these guys were coming in the neighborhood, and they were going door to door. And there were a couple of houses that had people in them that were not prepared. They went in and took their stuff and assaulted a few people. The guys that were prepared, they handled it. And they handled it by simply making themselves a defensive force, and they basically stood up, and 3 or 4 guys got together in one of the guys' yards and basically stood there with cocked shotguns and pointed at the guys, say, you're not doing that anymore. Get out of the neighborhood. Let's go, because we will shoot you. There's no cops to save you. Right. They turned it around to the guys. The whole point of this story was, and the whole point to all of this is I feel bad if people aren't prepared. Like, I want people to prepare themselves. I want people to prep and be ready. Some people are disinterested in that. Some people don't care too much. But I want people, and I feel worried for some people, because there are so many. I would say 80% of the people within a 100-mile radius of this bar right now are not prepared. They're not prepared for more than 1 or 2 days without food.
We're all okay until the day we're not.
Yeah, and so that is why if I accomplish nothing else with doing this whole show, is not only to inform but advise and to help somebody, and hopefully somebody will find some kind of information that's helpful, and they will end up going. I just thinking there's that kid. Remember that kid that came up to your car the other night? Little kid. He's been back downtown, so he's a problem. But you just never know, and so that's the whole reason I want to talk about it. So now let's any feedback.
So first off, one of the most aggravating things that I see in the world, but also locally and everywhere, is people that are so reliant on society that they can't imagine a world they would have to live in that doesn't have society in place for them. Right. They have absolutely no understanding of how the world works outside of what they're already being given and what they can get locally. They wouldn't know how to plant a thing, they wouldn't know how to hunt a thing, they wouldn't know how to kill a thing, they wouldn't, and the very idea of it would be so difficult for them that in a situation like this, a doomsday situation, they probably wouldn't survive.
Right.
Because they don't know the first damn thing about anything other than like what's going on Instagram and how to go to the local store and pick up their vegan supplies.
Right.
And, that's pretty well it. Like, society's been there for them, they've gotten accustomed to it, and they can't imagine a world where that's not the case.
Right.
Which is always, to me, it's aggravating. I hate seeing people that live that way.
Because at that point, whenever it becomes to a doomsday scenario, that you're now a liability. You're
right.
nothing but a liability.
Yes.
You're a mouth to feed that's giving nothing productive back.
Yeah,
right?
and you don't have the ability to give back.
So Dan, let me ask you this, because I've thought about exactly what you're just talking about, being a liability. Me knowing you just the limited amount that I do, you're a pretty sure guy. You're pretty sure of the way you think. Mm-hmm. You don't second guess yourself a lot. You're pretty much like, this is the way I feel about stuff, and I've had time to think about it.
I've spent a lot of time thinking
right.
about it.
So let me ask you this: would you, with a scenario where you had to, would you be able to take a life?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I would. Could you?
If forced. I mean, I'm not gonna. If it's me or you,
Right.
I'm survivalist. I'm not
Okay.
gonna.
All right.
If it comes down to somebody's pointing a gun at me and I'm pointing a gun at them, and I had to, yes, I'm sorry. I could take a life. Would I be fucked up afterwards? Yes, probably. But
I couldn't tell you what my mental state would be afterwards because I
Right.
have no.
Oh,
right, I
no.
don't have the frame of
I have no
reference.
idea.
know.
I've never been.
But it
on
probably
that
would be
side
great.
of things, no.
Probably not, but you may also feel like I survived, I made it.
Right.
Well,
You just
relief.
don't know. Yeah.
It's the same reason why we rotate out people in a slaughterhouse, because if you take the life even of an animal often with no break and do it
you lose
constantly,
that
you lose the ability
concept,
you lose empathy. You lose the ability to rationalize how the other person is feeling.
You
It just
lose
becomes
the importance
you
of
live,
life.
which is what we encountered in Vietnam with Vietnam soldiers. It's something we've encountered with soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq, where it's so common to just take life
Yeah.
that when they come back to the States, they don't know what to do with themselves because they have this whole.
Should have been here for
other-
our PTSD episode.
Well,
So is life, Danny? Do you think life is precious?
I think my life is precious.
Some lives are precious. Yeah.
I think don't
It's
fuck
a-
with
it's a
my
hard one, it
don't
really
fuck with
is.
my kids
Yeah.
because I will end you and then we'll deal with the ramifications.
But do you feel
afterwards.
like I feel, and this is the hard thing. I'm a Christian, right? So this is the hard thing for a
I am
Christian.
not.
I know you're not, but this is a hard thing for a Christian to say is I don't think some people need to be alive. Like there's some people in this world that we live in, whether they're evil or hateful or whatever their reasoning is, there are some people that don't need to breathe air.
I am sitting right here and I can think of two people off the top of my head that I would rather were not alive.
Well, that's what I'm
I
saying.
could probably name at least one of them.
Right, and you're not saying advocating their death.
No.
You're just saying you're not sure what their purpose is, other than to
In
cause.
my belief, just because you have no redeeming qualities doesn't mean that you don't still deserve a chance at life.
I don't. I think I look at some people the way I look at flies, because flies serve no purpose, literally no purpose. They serve no purpose in the world. They are parasites. They serve no purpose. So I want to ask. That's one of the questions I'm going to ask God when I go. What's the point to flies?
Look at
I have
mosquitoes.
I have a very unpopular opinion, and it's every time that I see on the news where a new seatbelt law or airbags save X millions of people a year.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I see that, my very first thought is don't you guys know we're in a population crisis?
Right. Can we let natural selection have at least a little bit of a chance,
like-
please?
My niece is an EMS responder, and that's what she does for a living, and she saves people's lives. But it's maybe don't.
Do you think there was a time in our world, in our country, but our world, that there was a better natural selection, meaning we didn't try so hard to keep life value, lifted up, and we let things kind of happen?
It's so hard.
You have to go back to
say.
the Wild West if you ask me.
I have a. Well, you do, but you don't. You don't want that. Nobody wants to live in the Wild West.
No, but some of those values were good, man. I tell you.
Some of those values, don't be a fucking idiot or I'll shoot you. Yeah. Absolutely.
But at the same time, you shouldn't. A society based on violence and the fact that you just have to defend yourself sheerly through force of will, it doesn't give you a chance to advance as a society.
I don't have a problem with society. I don't have a problem with helping my fellow man. I don't have a problem with people being able to be reliant on it. I just think being reliant on our society is a dumb thing to do because it could go away tomorrow.
So what is and I'm interested, and since you haven't been on the show before, we're kind of leaning on you a little bit. What is your vision of a perfect, not utopia, but you talk about anarchy with no government, right? That
Right.
literally means no government.
No,
Okay.
that's all it means.
So if we're speaking of, that's what you see as the
making
best.
our
Do you
way
lean
to
more
a
towards
society
the-
that requires no government.
Do you lean more towards the commune side of that, or do you lean more towards the self-sustaining
Like where everybody
side of it?
kind of helps each other, or do you want more of a self-sustained thing? That's a good question.
It's hard. It's
Meaning, if I were starving and we were in this situation, I was like, "Hey, Danny, you know me? Can I have some food?"
yeah, absolutely. Have some
Okay,
food.
all right, there you go. All right.
Have.
But if you were
okay.
starving and Danny had
tried to
food,
get his
and
food.
you wanted his food, but he wouldn't give it to you, and you went to somebody else that came and made Danny give you your food.
That's a
That's a
different
government.
situation.
That's a government.
Yeah.
That's a government. That's somebody enforcing.
It's his
something.
decision to give you the
So
food.
we
instead
have
of
to
somebody else
look.
telling
We
you
got to
get
change
the food.
our. We got to change our viewpoint on what government is, right?
Right.
Because that's anarchy does that. Anarchy tells you that it's not just what we think government is. It means anybody that forces you or governs you and mandates or makes you do something. That's a government.
Right.
Okay.
It's not about not having. It's not about what anarchy tells you. Anarchy is two words put together: "and" meaning no, and "archy" meaning government.
Okay.
That's all it means.
Okay.
So, literally living in a society that was an anarchy would be a society where nobody seeks power over anyone else. We would just live, which.
But you said there would be government, though.
No.
There would be. Well,
it
we
means
would.
no government.
I know, but you said we would form our own. Like you said that a minute ago.
No, a chaotic society. We will form our own governments.
Okay.
There will be a strict adherence to law, created by whoever has power.
So you would have in your world, if Danny created the world tomorrow, you would have no government, and Danny would have his own little area, and you don't want anyone mandating anything that you do, and you want to make all the decisions for your existence.
Yeah.
So
I want to wake up. I want to get something to eat. I want to hang out with my family, and I want to go to bed, and that'd be my life. Like.
So what about the people that aren't able to do those things? Should they not have sources and places to go?
Why wouldn't they have a source or places to go?
Well, because some people aren't going to be Danny. Some people aren't going to have the knowledge and the stick-to-itiveness and the strength that you have.
I
There's
believe
gonna be
we were
some
just talking
people-
about natural selection, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, and that's the point is there will be people in this world that you will see, and they won't be you. Like, you're pretty sure of
Do
yourself.
I have food in this scenario?
Yes.
Are there people in need?
Yes.
Am I willing to give that thing to that person without asking anything in return?
Are you?
Yes.
But what if it's at the risk of your own existence? Because sometimes when
I
we're
don't think
asked
you
to
would give something more than you can. If you're giving somebody something, you're not going to give them more than you
All right,
can.
let me
than
ask you this then, Cody. Since that's
If you
good.
come to me and try to take that thing, our society has failed.
Okay, right. So Cody, let's just put it this way: we are in the doomsday situation. You have set up your own little area to live, right? It's you and whoever else. And here I come, right? I have my daughters with me, and I say, and I'm beaten up and bruised, and maybe a broken arm, whatever. And we limp up to your little gate or your house or your door or whatever it may be, and I say, hey Cody, it's me, Eric. My house, everything is gone. We don't have anything. You know you don't have enough food or water for me and my family. You know you don't.
I already know the answer to this, and it's literally a proverb already. Yeah, you can you can teach a man to fish and feed him you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day. You can teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. You're gonna help that family much more teaching them how to survive and getting them knowledge on how to help themselves than you are by giving them your own stuff.
So what you're saying is you're going to come out from your shelter and teach me how to fish?
I don't have to come out from my shelter. I can teach you how to fish without having, or come. I'm gonna have to fish for myself anyway.
So what you're
come
saying
down and let
is
me watch
you're-
and watch me do it and see how to do it. And you can do it yourself.
What
Like,
you're saying is in that immediate situation where my children are starving and I'm beaten and bruised, you're not going to
if
help
I
me.
have extra, if I have enough
But
to
you
get by
don't.
and still don't, then probably
So
not.
you're going to say no?
Probably, yeah.
Well, I'm not
how
saying
did
you're
you get
wrong
to
for
this
it because
point?
I would say no.
I mean, I'm survivalist.
No, that's what
like-
I'm saying. That's
did
the whole
you get
point.
here?
Well, but you don't know. Like, this is the whole problem with society is we don't know why somebody needs help or assistance.
But also-
what about there are people that misuse this and they send out their pregnant wives to a shelter.
And I get that you're playing devil's advocate.
Right,
This
I am.
is so. This is not. I'm a realist. Like, I understand the problems with our society to get to that point.
Right.
It seems really unrealistic. Like, I know that.
Right.
I know that 100%.
Yeah.
But that's the thing we should be working towards.
Right.
Right? Am I
Right.
wrong?
No, no.
agree.
Should I need a police officer to tell me I can't blow a fucking stoplight?
Nope.
No, I should be able to know how a fucking stoplight works, and everybody else should too.
Right.
Do I need someone to tell me I shouldn't kill somebody? God, no.
But who?
That is a basic human understanding.
But
we
who-
all know that.
Right. But in the case of the stoplight or the law or whatever, who doles out the justice?
Imagine a world where you don't need that.
Right. But someone runs your kid over in the street. What do you want to do to that person?
I murder that motherfucker.
Right. So if there is no law to protect you or that person,
I'm with you.
you're going to murder that person.
Oh, absolutely.
So that would be the natural selection type thing. Like that's that person's time to go.
Okay, then that utopia has failed. We didn't make it to that point.
Is it possible to be in that though?
That's what I'm saying.
as
It's
humans-
an unrealistic
right, right.
it's an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
But it doesn't mean we shouldn't work towards it.
So we always want to
Like,
attain.
you can't just go like, that'll never work. Let's not fucking work for it.
No.
Just work for it. Like,
Right.
why are we not trying that?
But there's some people that feel, and I'm just being devil's advocate, but there's some people that feel like if you know you'll never get there, why you fucking care?
Yeah,
Like,
but
why
if-
try?
And
if
that's
this
why
is
we're
the-
here.
If the
Really?
law of
Like,
the
I
land
mean-
requires no law of the land, if we've made it to a point as human beings where we're so empathetic and we're such a good culture
Yeah.
that we don't require anything, like we don't need money. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Everybody will give
I'm
up
with you on
and
that.
share,
Yeah.
and we can put a society together where we don't require anybody to take or give from anybody because things have no meaning. Like there's nothing more valuable than your life and being alive and getting to enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get to that point, I don't need a mansion. You don't need a mansion.
No, nobody needs a mansion.
Nobody needs a mansion.
No.
You need a place where you can wake up and go to bed
That's it.
peacefully and raise your
I
children.
agree with you on that completely.
Why wouldn't we work towards that as a society?
I agree. Look, I agree on what you're saying as far as what we need to reevaluate what our needs and wants are. We really do, because we're all out of skew, and we do it to ourselves. We also allow it to be done to us because we enjoy it. We enjoy the wants and needs and all that stuff. But
And
you're right.
status
If we can somehow
elitism and-
pull ourselves back a little bit and start evaluating what's important, like you said, we can start getting to be better people. I think the whole thing is like with Cody. Cody always, and I'm speaking as I know you, Cody always tries to do the right thing. Like, he's that guy.
I think with like 95% certainty, most people do.
I think so too. So if we take that we all know we're not supposed to run at stoplight, we're not supposed to kill each other. Like, everybody kind of knows that, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with religion. It has to do with our morals and our core. We know in our core, I'm not supposed to kill you, you're not supposed to kill me. So let's examine real quickly a society that was like that. Indians, for example, the American Indian, right? They had a tribal council, but they were made up of people from the village, and they were all part of the village, right? So let's look at how the Indians lived. The Indians were self-governed, well, until we screwed them up. But they were self-governed. They had their own form of worship, their own form of government, their own form of raising children, their own education, their own beliefs. They were pretty happy. Yes, they lived in a rough way, but I think if you ask an Indian, and the reason that it was so sad what happened to them is they've been established for centuries, and they were mean to each other, obviously, the Sioux and the Cherokee, and like there was all that going on, but that's all, I think, part of being men in the biblical sense.
So you're talking about a mythological, like, warrior, proud warrior heritage that it's romantic, but it never really existed. We're talking about warring tribes that lived on
That's
the
not
plains.
myth, though.
There
were Indians
It's a
that lived.
romanticized myth. It's the same as the romance around being a cowboy or the romance about being a samurai.
Do you mean romance in a way?
I
of
mean romance
we,
in a way
we
where
hold
brought
it
to a
up.
light
we
that
take
makes
Like a
it
story?
you idolize somebody like that instead of realizing that
But
it was actually really
aren't we
fucking
kind of
hard for 'em.
talking about that though a little bit? Like the
You're
way
talking-
Indians lived,
so
they
you're
were
talking
self-governed,
about-
and
It definitely existed, but you're talking about what was a society, and it existed, but they lived by certain rules. But it's a huge step backwards from the society we currently live in.
Right.
Like, you can't say, like, why don't we just go back and be like the Native Americans? Because
We've
they
advanced
were
too far.
warring, they were fighting, they were land battles, they were
which is
killing
worse
each
than what we
other.
have right now, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely
here's
worse.
my thing is, was there ever, in your opinion, and you've read a lot, was there ever a society that you can think of that was close to that?
Atlantis.
Something
There
that
has
was real.
There has never been a society
Actually,
that falls
Atlantis
in line
could have
with
been
what I'm
real,
talking
for that
about,
matter.
Because if there was, we would still be in it.
Right.
You think we would still be in it?
We
You don't
would
think that
we would definitely
that
still
men's
wanna get out of
hearts?
something
We
like
achieved
that.
it.
I don't know.
We
You-
achieved it. We'd be in it.
But you don't
We're
think
not there yet.
You don't think men's
We
hearts
are-
would have pulled us away from
We
it?
are the finest, smartest, most put together society that the world has ever seen, globally. This is the best the world has ever been. It's really easy to say that it's not.
See ya.
See you, Derek. Love you.
It's really easy to say that things have been shitty. It's really easy to say that things are bad right now.
Right.
Because the world is getting smaller. We're communicating faster. I can get news from the other side of the world like that.
Wait, the world's
So
getting
I know
smaller
The world
In the
is getting
sense that
smaller because of
there's
technology.
You can
As
get
far as
information
divide.
I can tell you what happened
literally
in China
halfway around
an
the world
hour
in 1
ago.
second.
Okay.
Now, whenever Native Americans were living here, They couldn't tell you what happened a mile away. 3, 4, 5 days later, they couldn't tell you those things. Our world is getting smaller, so we see bad things more often.
Right.
But the bad things are less.
Okay.
We just see them more. They're more prevalent. We see them faster. They get
I agree.
to us
I
faster.
agree with that.
That's the poison of a 24-hour news cycle, because in order to keep ratings up, in order to keep talking about things,
Gotta
in order
keep
to
talking
share
about
stuff,
that bad stuff.
You gotta keep talking about the bad.
Would you be okay if news just stopped?
Absolutely. If I just
I
had
don't
weather,
watch
I'd
the
be
news.
okay.
I don't.
I literally don't watch the news. The study done during the Obama administration, where they found that pundits like Comedy Central or Internet News gave way better news, way more accurately than the news that people watch every day. The 24-hour news cycle was poisoning what people thought, whereas people who were just making jokes about it informed people better.
Right.
Because
I agree.
they were actually talking about actual things instead of just trying to keep their ratings up.
Right.
The world's getting smaller. I think we're all moving in the right direction. I think that it's just, we can't just say good enough is good enough. We have to continue pushing society to the point where it's no longer required to govern each other. It's no longer required to tell you, like, you can't do that. You should
Right.
fucking know. I shouldn't have to tell you that.
And you shouldn't have to have a
Common
higher
sense should
authority tell you
dictate,
that.
yeah. And you're always going to have instances where people have mental breaks. So we were talking about blackouts earlier. People who can't handle that will have to expunge those cancers from our society. At that point, we've taken a step backwards, but so we can move forward.
But who is this? But here's the thing. I agree with you that people should have common sense about what is right and wrong. But if you look at, like, Salem, for example, there was a group of people that said, those women are witches and we must burn them. And
She can
everybody was
read?
like, yes.
Oh, hell no.
She can, yeah, let's burn her. And here's my issue. The only issue I have is we all are supposed to have a commonsensical look at things, and we're all supposed to kind of have but that always goes askew when man is involved, because we have man's hearts and man's brains, and we don't use a higher power and a higher authority to guide our, if we did that, whatever you believe in for how we got here, it doesn't.
Have you ever read
believe
Lord of
what
the
you-
Flies?
Yes, I have.
Did you have to read it for school?
No, I didn't.
So you just read it. Did you have to read Lord of the Flies for school?
I read it just to read it.
I also just read
fascinating.
it. Just to read it. But they teach that. They teach Lord of the Flies in school. Lord of the Flies is a book about a bunch of children get trapped on an island, and
Right.
they establish their own government, and they start killing each other off. And it's this idea of this chaotic world without a government, because if nobody was there to tell them that they can't kill each other, they just start killing each other. The only problem with Lord of the Flies is this is one person's opinion and not based on any fact or science in any way, shape, or form. This was one guy's opinion on how this thing should be done, and they taught it to us. You go to school and they're like, this is what happens when there's no government.
See,
ninth grade.
they taught it, but they taught it like we talked about it in an examination, not in a this is how it is. It was an examination of how people can behave with each other in a chaotic society. Because you took children, for example, children automatically started forming groups of people and started forming a government kind of thing, and then they made decisions on who should be what was the word they used? Put them out of the, what was it they said? And when they put them out of the tribe,
Right, yeah.
you have to go out into the, okay.
We all know Hatchet was the best island story anyway.
Right.
Keep going, though.
But anyway, my basic point of that is we should always strive and push to get to that better world.
So that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and
This
I
is-
agree with you.
This is one man's opinion on what the world would be like without a government. It's a knee-jerk reaction to a terrible situation. But we were those kids. We were those kids on the island with no one ruling us. That's
Would you-
what we formed to get to what we are today.
What if-
we were that?
What if somebody came along tomorrow to you and Cody and said, listen, I've got this community.
So,
Hold on. I've got this community. You will have a place to live. There's enough place. There's sustenance. You can hunt. You can fish. You can survive. There's other people that live there, but you basically are your own. Like there's no government. You basically live on your own. And the only thing that we offer you is if you get sick, we may have someone that can help you if you're sick. If you need help with something, we may have somebody to help, but you basically have to survive on your own.
So the.
Would you
you're
do
saying,
that?
Yes, first of all, but second of all, we have somebody that can do this. That's going back to the bartering system. You're going to have somebody that's going to have a profession and anything you're going to need, and you guys trade services to survive.
So you would go to
There's
a
a
society
doctor.
like that.
There's a doctor.
So-
He'll treat you when you're sick, but when he needs food, you have to trade it for him.
Right, no, I
There's
know.
a brewmaster, and
What
he'll
I'm-
make beer,
what
but
I'm
he's going
asking
to trade you that
so
beer for food.
You would drop. That's your idea of
Yes, I would.
perfection. Okay.
I mean,
What about you?
honestly-
So what's interesting is everything that you're talking about, every example you're giving,
Yeah.
especially in a doomsday scenario, is a step backwards.
Well, I just gave an example of if someone had a place like a utopia, so to speak, where it was basically like you and I said, let's go buy some land, right? You and I put our money in together, and we went and bought a big chunk of land out in Montana. We bought 100 acres, and we went to Cody and said, guess what, Cody? We're going to build a little area for you. You can have it. It'll be your little area. No one's going to say anything to you. It's our place. I'm saying that's the kind of place we're going to have. And then along the way, people come along that know how to doctor and know how to do this and that. I'm not saying we're stepping back because I don't know that we've ever had anything like that. In this country, for example, there's never been, unless you...
There's communes and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the problem with here's the thing is, and we could go on and on, but the problem that I'm trying to fix is that anytime human beings are involved, things get screwed up. Anytime that we decide to do something that's better, we try to push towards something. What I'm saying is, I agree with you. We need to push. We need to try and be better, but I don't think it's possible.
But the example you just gave is to abandon the greatest functional society the world has ever seen,
Right.
and go do something else.
Right.
We don't need to abandon what we have. We need to make it infinitely better, and we need to continue to work towards it. We're
So
on the
how do
right
you-
path.
How do you do that in this, though?
We're on the right path.
With
We
all
are
of that we
making-
have.
We just look in the last 5 years, the strides we have made towards mental health, towards
Acceptance.
towards race relations, towards all of that. It's all a step in the right direction. The idea that we could just abandon this and go do something better isn't good. The idea that we can make the existing system better is good. The idea that, like we were talking about with Lamar Jackson, someone can't say that his hand is similar in color to the ball. Okay, you don't understand how the electromagnetic spectrum works?
Yeah.
Because it is.
Right.
So let's not lambaste this guy because he had he stated something that is your eyes can tell you is a fact.
So
But maybe let's move further away from hating people because of the color of their skin, or I'm not going to get political, but
Right, I know what you're saying. So let's just say this in closing. Let's say, for example, you can look at the camera and you can say, what's something that someone can do out there right now in their world? Because we started this with survival and doomsday and stuff. What's the one way that you can exist in this world that we're in now and still look out for yourself and try to wean yourself off government? Because my question to you would be, if you're saying the way we live right now, why would we want to give this up if we can push towards better? But the way we live right now is partly because of we have governance and we have guidance. So you want a society without that. So how do we do that?
But I don't want a society where you wake up tomorrow and that's gone. I want a society where we move everything that we do to a point where we don't need it. It's not to say you
we
wake
don't
up
need-
tomorrow
okay.
and the entire government's gone
Okay,
and
where
we're
we
going to figure
don't need
things
it.
out. There's
Okay, I
chaos
see.
in the streets. Nobody's helping anybody. All the lights don't work. The
Okay.
power system's gone down. That's not the idea that I'm working towards. That makes no sense. Why would you pull the blanket out from underneath everybody?
But there would be
what
people
I'm
that-
saying is, wake up tomorrow, analyze the things that you're scared of, the fears in your life, the things that you make judgments solely based on what you're scared of, and figure out the ones that are real, fears that you should have, fears that are common sense, you should be afraid of the dark because there's things in the dark that will kill you. Figure that out, add light to your life. But if you wake up tomorrow and you're afraid that the homeless person on the street is going to stab you to death if you don't give him $1, maybe think about that. Why? Why are you so scared of that? Who cares? Stay away from them. Maybe do some common sense things. Protect yourself. Learn to protect yourself. Don't live in a world where you rely on everybody else to make your decisions for you.
That's a great point. prepare.
the number one
Be
thing we can
prepared
do,
for yourself. That's
analyze
exactly
your
my whole
fears. Figure out the ones that matter and the ones that don't. Get rid of the ones that don't. Figure out what it is in your life that's making you so scared of
What
things
fears
that don't
will actually
exist.
protect your life, and what fears do you have that don't
Exactly.
impact you at all?
Exactly. And if we can all work towards a world where we're not so goddamn scared of everything, then we eliminate that knee-jerk reaction to things that aren't actually going to hurt you.
And that means that we have to be a little more open-minded about what people say, and we have to accept some things, some crappy things along the way. And that's the bad thing is we can cut those people out of our life, and we can say what he said was this or whatever. But like you said, we and I agree with you for the most part. I don't know that it's possible, but I agree that
Who wouldn't want the life you're describing? Is basically what it is.
Right? No,
is
I
it
agree.
attainable?
I
Who
agree
fucking knows?
completely.
But who
Why
wouldn't
stop
want to
working
fucking
for it?
right?
I agree completely. Well, it's my life's goal is to get to where I don't have somebody telling me what I have to do.
Right.
I agree with you on that, but I don't know that it's possible in this society just because of the way it's been.
Is why you
I
have to
know.
make society better.
Yeah, and I agree. There's ways we can do it, and that's a whole nother show. So we're gonna close it out. We kept you a little longer. We did start a little late, but. Thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
This made the show awesome, man. I appreciate it. We were down, Zach felt bad.
Please
and
come back.
Matt went out too. So yeah, it'd be good to have you back when you come back. That's the whole reason we do the show is because I think if we all get around and have conversations,
Oh, I just have to drink alone.
all have conversations about
It's
the
a
way
drinking
we can
thing.
try to improve things and make things better in our own lives, and then we can somehow share that with each other. We can start getting better. We can start doing more, and that's the thing. I don't like a lot of negativity as far as news and information, so I want to do something where we share positive and fun messages, not so crappy and shitty all the time. But anyway, for my guests Cody and Danny, I'm Eric, your host. You've been watching Sessions, stream live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape. We do this every Thursday night, except for one night we didn't. But we do it every Thursday night. This was episode 21. You can catch it on YouTube. Jay will post the link at some point. And thank you to Jay again. Jay, before we leave, we got to see your shirt, man. We've done it every show. We can't stop now. What is it?
House.
House.
It's
Show.
a band from the 80s.
Band from the 80s. All right, cool.
Would also like to say I also have my own podcast. It's called Comically Inclined. We recorded our newest episode tonight. It's over The Mandalorian, Phase 4 and 5 of the Marvel movies, and then the Black Widow trailer, and then the Boys Season 2 trailer.
Where can they find
You can
that?
find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
Awesome. All right, cool. So what is it called?
Comically Inclined.
Comically Inclined. So look for that on most major places where you can find that. So that's awesome. I didn't know you had that. That's awesome. So yeah, do that. Find that. We want to share the fun with everybody. So go find Danny's podcast and do that.
And I'll
So-
also share this episode to our page.
Awesome. So for Eric, your host, this is Sessions. We love you guys for stopping in with us. For everybody that's been here every episode, thank you very much. Share the episode. Let everybody know that we're doing this. And if you want to be on the show, let me know, especially if you're a female. We'd love to have you on. We will see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. And I'll send out the topics, and hopefully you can come back, and I'd love for you to come back if you want
Hopefully I can come back like I haven't been here for every fucking episode.
to. I got to say it. I got to make it like maybe you won't be here. Mystery. Everybody expects to see you. But
I'm sure everybody's waiting and biting their fingernails.
yeah, we'll see you next week on Thursday, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bang, rang.